Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Welcome, one and all, to the Spoilercast for A Plague's Tale Requiem. I want to thank everybody for choosing to hang with us for the next hour and some change as we take you into the world of where's this game set?
I don't know. France.
We're taking you into the rat-infested world of France as we spoil
Medieval
the hell.
France, maybe we should say, just in
Yeah.
case people listening
There
have
we
no
go.
context at all.
19th century, 18th century, who knows? We'll figure it out.
Some really messed up time with a lot of fucking rats. But we're here to talk about it. And I'm glad I am joined by my fellows here. First and foremost, to my right, he is a Nintendo hater that plays all his games on the hardest mode. He is the Duke of Education. Alfredo, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I can't wait to talk about this game. Yes, I did play this game on hard mode. Obviously, I got knocked out a lot. Those one-hit KOs. Rough.
There was one hit KOs on hard
Oh
mode?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Maybe I
yeah.
should-
Just like
maybe
the
I
first
should-
game.
Maybe I should have played on hard mode. But next, he's a man I'm jealous of because of the sunlight shining in his room. He is Mr. Matt Bliss. How are you doing today, sir?
Not bad. Feeling nice, bright, early,
Let's see.
midday.
What
sunlight.
time is it over there?
It's 2:30 p.m. currently.
Wow. Ugh, if only.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's the only
Jesus.
solution for lighting for me, and I'm kind of thankful that this is how times line up when I meet with you lads, because the lighting in my room is terrible without it. So I'm
Coulda
thankful for the
fooled
sun.
me.
Yeah, could have fooled me too. Everything works for a reason.
Wasn't
Thankful
the
for
window
the
on the
sun
other
in
side of
miniatures.
you though? What's going on with your room? Everything's weird. Like,
Everything's flipped.
did you move? Yeah. What's going?
No, it's what happens when you open multiple windows in your house. It turns out light comes from other places. I've learned that
Wow,
from
crazy.
being a recluse, seeking darkness, which funnily is all on brand for the discussion we'll be having today.
Oh yeah.
Lots,
Oh yeah.
lot of darkness. And last and certainly not least, he's the man with a bunch of dope shit in his background, as I see. He's Mr. Finest. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, very well. It's been a long day, but yeah, it's been a good day. Where's my title? Do I have my little title thing? Can we bring up my name real quick?
Alfredo, get that lower thirds. Come
Oh
on.
gosh, you guys are respecting the world.
We
I'm
gotta treat our
getting
guests right, Alfredo. Get his lower
This is
thirds.
a high production setup.
You know, I expect nothing but the finest. What could I say, Alfredo?
Ooh,
Come
there
on.
it is. There it is. I got you. Don't worry. Just enjoy the show for now, though.
I can
Why don't
sit
you
back and
intro
relax.
this name? Because I've seen a little bit of it, Finest, so I'm not entirely sure what it means.
What?
Or have I missed something
mean,
completely?
Do I have to? Is it up? Do I say it now?
Oh, you can go ahead
Alfredo's
and
one.
say it. I'm
Oh.
working on it. I'm working on it.
Okay.
He's
Well, I
typing
don't-
it as we speak.
I don't know
Play the
which
elevator
name.
music.
I don't know which name is present right now. So there was X3D Savant. That one was present, and that's my gamer tag on PlayStation. So
Oh.
I chose it a very long time ago. It was like I don't know. It's supposed to be clever. It was like X as in like Mega Man X, and then it was like I love 3D, and then savants are people that like are good at what they do. They're like, you know, very good at what they do. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna be X3D Savant, and that was my clever name back in the day. But yeah, I don't know. I wish I can change my gamer. I mean, I can on PlayStation
can.
now, but
Of
it's a
course.
pain.
We
It's a
all
pain. It's still.
You remember those days?
When we
Remember the
couldn't
days
just change
where you
anything.
couldn't change it and they had no reason why?
Yeah,
Man,
those were the days.
time flies. Well, of course, while we're waiting for Alfredo to get those lower thirds out.
No pressure.
This is of course a Plague Tale Requiem spoiler cast. Now, Alfredo, correct me if I'm wrong, but how we're going to structure this is we're going to post our initial thoughts. We're going to kind of go around the round table, the brain trust. We're going to go around, say our thoughts on what we think about the game overall without spoiling it for all the non-spoiler folks here. And then after that, y'all need to get the hell out because we're going to spoil the hell out of this game. So if you have
Absolutely.
any plans on playing this game, we'll let you know as soon as we're going into spoiler territory. Just keep yourself warned about that, because I don't want to. I feel like everybody should at least experience the story of this game without having to get spoiled. So
And the great thing is that you
100%.
can, if you get Game Pass on PC and probably on Xbox
Yeah.
too. Like, it costs you almost
Nothing.
nothing to just dive in and give it a shot.
or if you're rich, you could buy it on PlayStation 5 and Steam.
Support the devs.
Or just get it for free. There you go.
Or just get it for free.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be a good conversation, I feel. Before we do that though, I do want to go around. Has everybody's played to completion Innocence, right?
First
Yes,
game.
sir.
Yes.
Negative. I have not played Innocence at all. I did watch a video recap about it. So it was 8 minutes. So if I should have everything, I should know everything about the game. I should be an expert because that 8 minutes, I saw it all.
The valuable 8 minutes.
Sounds like it. Wow.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so that gives me a good lay of how we all are at least coming into this game. And so I guess we can kind of go around the round table. I'll start with you, Finest. How do you feel overall about Requiem without spoiling it?
Let's see. So coming from not playing Innocence, I knew of A Plague Tale Innocence when it did come out, and very much it was looking at that game and just seeing it when it originally came out. It seemed very like rough around the edges from my perspective, and I was like, looking at the gameplay and things that just involve the overall story. I can tell like probably wasn't my type of game. Coming into Requiem, I was pleasantly surprised by some things, and then there was other things in terms of gameplay features and things like that kind of met my expectations. In terms of like, this probably wasn't my type of game, and I wasn't. The hours that I played, it was very difficult for me to get through. Every half an hour I spent, I would look at the clock. I look at the clock and I felt like an hour would pass by or 2 hours, and that's kind of my entire experience was. I like looked at the hours for how much time it takes to play this game, and I was like, okay, it's at around like 15 to 20, 25 hours or something like that for the gameplay. I was like, I can do that when we were like decided we're going to do the spoiler cast, and I was just like, not a problem. Every minute I played, it seemed like 20 minutes passed by. So I'll just leave it at that. It was a trudge for me, but yeah.
How long did you play, or how many hours, I guess, did you spend?
A
before you
total
were like,
of
nope.
9 hours.
Oh, okay. So good,
Yeah.
man. You got over halfway, definitely.
Yeah, I got a good portion through the game, but yeah, it was. Man, I wanted to be doing so many other things.
It's one of the oldest quotes in the world, but time flies when you're having fun. And it sounds like time didn't fly so quickly.
Yeah, there's no way to better say that. Yeah, time was not flying whatsoever for me, and I feel like I aged quite a bit. I see grays popping up in my chin hair after playing this game. Yeah, I thought my kids stressed me out, but this game definitely did some things to me that I was not happy about.
I'm sorry. I'm just so curious. What do you think about it brought you out of it, or what just wasn't your type of game? Was it the story? Was it the game mechanics? I'm just curious.
So originally it was the story with the first game. I was like, this doesn't really seem like my type of story. Coming into this game, I actually really enjoyed the story. For the parts that I've got to see so far. It was everything in between the story. That it was the mechanics, the gameplay. I've become more proficient in the sling. I can say that much. Um, there were some parts that definitely, like from the story perspective, pulled me out of it. But I think there's certain games when you just experience a certain loop, and you can kind of just that the loop isn't satisfying at some point. Like you're like, you do it once, you do it twice, you do it 3, 4, 5 times, and it kind of just, you see the mechanics of the game, you see what the game is, and you're like, is this the game? And you come to find out that's the total of the game. And it kind of just loses all its surprise. The only thing that kept on pulling me back in was this spoiler cast and the story. Honestly, Amicia was wonderful. The voice. She was like there were some parts about this game that were just I feel like top notch, and I would continue to play the game for those aspects, but it's still like I rather probably just see this like an audiobook or a movie rather than experiencing just the gameplay mechanics in between that continue to just pull me out.
I want to go next because I want to kind of piggyback off of what you said. I feel like I'm a little more positive than you, but that last line that you said, where if this were an audiobook or a TV show, I would absolutely love this. Like, this might have been my favorite thing of the year if it was anything else but a video game, which makes me really feel conflicted about it because I can't deny the high points that this game has. I really can't. I also have to take into account the fact that it's made by like, I think it's a team of 50.
Pretty small team, I believe. Yeah.
Small team. It's a AA game. I think the voice acting is really good. I think the overall story, the story beats, I think everything besides the actual video game is masterclass. And then we get to the actual video game. And I'm struggling. I'm just struggling to even like get through levels, not from a hard standpoint, but I've never fallen asleep playing a video game in my life.
Oh no.
Ever. Like I fell asleep watching. I fell asleep while I was like waiting for like a guard to move. I woke up and Amicia is just sitting there dead. I was like, oh shit, I fell asleep a little bit.
Yeah, you and me both. I fell asleep a couple times during this game. Just to piggyback off of that. But yeah.
Wow. You know what they say, don't sleep on the macula. Don't sleep on it.
They don't cut away from those death scenes either.
Right. And that's, I mean, we're going to go more in depth about why I feel this way. But I do want to get to you two before we get into spoilers. So, Matt, the big Macula Bliss, take it away. What are your thoughts on this game?
Look, I echo yours. If we can share spoilers from the first game here, I want to say that it was a self-fulfilling prophecy on my part, because when I played that first game, I loved it, to be honest. I think Finus, if you were pleasantly surprised by this game, if you pick up Innocence, you're going to have a much better time. Mm-hmm. Because I was sitting on it for a long time. I knew I kind of wanted to tackle it, but it wasn't enough of a draw that I wanted to jump on it straight away. As soon as you get into it and you play a little bit, it's amazing. It's a great game because the story's epic. As you've both said, the gameplay can get a bit overwhelming with Requiem. In Innocence, they take a bit of time ramping you up into a very limited gameplay set of options. Mm-hmm. To the point where I think the first game was even it wasn't a combat game. It was a puzzle. It was a puzzle game. Like there was a set of maybe, probably one, but maybe 2 or 3 different ways you can approach an environment that was between cutscenes, and you would be able to solve it. And it would make sense. Things would click into place and you'd see bits of the environment, the thing that you'd mentioned, Finus, where it kind of can break the game sometimes. But in a game where you're hungering for story and don't care much for the action, that is a boon. That gives you a lot of what you need. But at the end of Innocence, when it started ramping up towards the very end, they started shoving bits that was essentially training into very small sections, expecting you to use these things all together. And that's like teaching someone geometry and then a year later teaching them what angles are and then expecting them to do trigonometry straight after without a transition. Like, it didn't make any sense to me. It made that last portion of Innocence not enjoyable. What I think they did here, And the reason why we all, I presume, Alfredo, are not enjoying the gameplay is because they had to layer on top of that again. To the point where I felt like I was swapping between Uncharted and The Last of Us throughout the gameplay there. There's just, without saying much, there's way too much choice, and they've removed the puzzles, forcing you to solve it yourself. So it's like you're having to cut the pieces to make the puzzle picture yourself out of every one of those levels. And, you know, that example with the guard path, in a puzzler that's set up well in a combat fighter, you'd have a predictable path, you know where you can't be found. But with this, all the elements working together are so unpredictable, you have to be switched on all the time. You can't just nap in the bushes and expect to be obscured from everything. And that made the combat really hard for me too. I was picking up and putting this game down in half-hour increments for probably 2 weeks because I could not deal with it. I would get... I don't think this spoils much either, but the first actual combat bit where you can save someone, I spent so long on that. And we'll go into it in spoilers.
Okay, I was like, which one's
if you're
that?
wondering. But
Yeah.
it's the first real combat bit that appears to give you a choice. And that's one of the things here too. Choice folds into this game quite a bit. And I spent way too long trying to, do the right thing and ended up meeting nothing. And also it was effing impossible because
I know
the way that
exactly what you're talking. I know exactly what you're talking about. I cannot wait to talk about that moment in spoilers.
Mushrooms.
I need a refresher, so I can't wait to.
Yeah. Anyway, point is the combat for me, that was not the bit that you come to this game for. You come for the story. You come for the voice acting. You come for the continuation of learning about the macula, what the rats can do. And let's be honest, some of those scenes, unbelievable. Like what they're doing with the rats in this game compared to the first, crazy. They got waves of rats moving in much different ways than before. No rat tornadoes, which was a bit of an interesting change.
I was like,
But-
oh man.
I saw that in the video. Yep, the Pope. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
last
the Pope
scene
was
was
there
it was a rat battle Dragon Ball Z fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
no one could fly.
The beam struggles. That was
Yeah.
a rat struggle. Like
I actually went back to my notes from the first game because we actually did a book club on A Plague's Tale: Innocence, and my last note on there was "Super Mutant Rat Battle?" ? Left my ass off.
that was one of the worst ways to end a really good game. Like that was I thought that was a horrible ending to that game, or a horrible last boss fight to the.
You
first
know,
game.
it was a choice, but
But it kind of is on brand too, right? Because in things like Dragon Ball Z, there are established rules that things can't do until they can eventually do them to overwhelm them. That seems to be what happened with the rats here too. Like all of a sudden, the overwhelming population and power of it meant that light almost didn't matter, except where in the gameplay it was important for it to matter because that's the one thing they can't remove or change to alter the experience, because that is, without that, you are stuffed. You are absolutely stuffed. So anyway, summing up for a very long, ambling way through the history of Plague Tale, gameplay, down, story, up. In ways, spoiler section, I'll reveal a little bit more. But the voice acting, yeah, that was perfect. And the characters are pretty great too.
Except Lucas.
I didn't mind Lucas.
Where Lucas?
He disappeared for a good while.
Yeah.
So
I think they made him too realistic. They made him too realistic. Like they knew he wasn't going to have much airtime. Sorry, we're getting into spoilers here, but not too much of a spoiler. But if you look at him at the start, compared to what he looked like in the first game, he got a lot of attention. Like he got
he got
Tomb
the glow
Raider
up.
tress effects.
He definitely got the glow up compared to any other character in the game.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he looks spectacular.
And it's only
We'll
been
marry
6
that
months
guy.
between the first and second game. Crazy.
Yeah,
you can do a lot after you ride on a carriage for 6
lot-
months. Yeah.
This is true. This is true.
You can't control a growth spur. You can't control your glow up.
No, you cannot.
but he's Zac Efron, and I don't think that's common. So
For Lucas, anything is possible. Lucas, maybe not best boy. That's Hugo. But for me, A Plague's Tale was I definitely second everything that Matt was saying about the first game in this is not required reading, but your experience of A Plague Tale Requiem will be enhanced so much more if you were to play the first one, because what A Plague Tale Innocence does, or yeah, what A Plague Tale Innocence does is set the foundation, right? It was a good story. I really enjoyed it, and I was excited to see where it goes. But there was a lot of pieces that were missing there for me, uh, namely, of course, the gameplay. But what Requiem does was build off of everything that the first game did. Is has an amazing story. The graphics look beautiful. I was playing on an Xbox Series S, and I was stunned how good it looked, even on like the downgraded
What
Xbox.
was
It
the
was
frame rate
real
on
good.
there? Was
I
it
was holding pretty steady 30.
okay?
It was pretty steady 30. So
How
it
was
wasn't bad at
everyone
all.
playing actually, real quickly?
Oh my god, I have a story with this game. I guess this is where I can kind of get into it. I started off on Xbox, and I couldn't do the 30 frames because
Oh, really? You didn't
I
like
played
it?
Innocence at 60, so I'm like, it almost felt like a downgrade. So then I moved to PC, and I was like, this is nice, but I don't feel like sitting on my PC. Started streaming it on my Steam Deck, and I realized on the Steam Deck, I don't like this game in terms of
Yeah.
the gameplay. I tried
Interesting.
3 different ways to play this game, and nothing is working. It's not the systems, it's the gameplay. So
You know,
that's when I started to just watch it.
in terms of like the frame rate itself, like 30 felt right for me because the way that they frame this game really makes it feel like a movie. Like you guys were kind of saying, like a different medium. It felt like a really great movie, basically. A really long movie, but a really great one. And they played their strengths right, I think. They stepped it up in terms of graphically, in terms of story, in terms of character development itself, and a little bit in terms of gameplay. But the problem is that the gameplay in the first one, it wasn't that good. There was a lot of issues with the first game, and I think they did a good enough job patching the gameplay up to the point where, yeah, we're clearly all not here for the gameplay, right? But for me, it didn't prevent me from playing this game. I was able to enjoy it enough, but I was really here to see, what is Amicia and Hugo's story and where are they going next? That's what I really cared about, because the first one set the foundation of me caring about these characters, and the second one solidified, oh, I really really want these characters, like, to see where they're going, to see what path they're on, to make sure that they're okay. And I feel like they completely surpassed my expectations in me even caring about Hugo, because let's face it, like, escort quests normally are terrible, right? Nobody wants to take care of an NPC. NPCs can be annoying. And if we're talking about a 5-year-old boy, right, you don't want to be a parent and just dragging around, this character. But the way that these scenes play out and the way that they bring to life, both through gameplay and through like the scenes themselves, the way that they breathe life into these characters, like, really made me personally, like, think about just my own relationship with my siblings in general. And it's really a story about how far you are willing to go in order to, save the one that you love, basically, in order to save the people that you care about. And they were able to really connect in a way that I didn't think they would be, jumping off from Innocence, because I don't know. It's just everything about this game. I feel like they succeeded in taking to another level, except unfortunately for the gameplay. Now, the gameplay, like I said, it was enough to keep me going, but I'm with you guys. Like, the gameplay wasn't there, but the story was so good and so interesting, and the characters were played so well that I didn't care. I was willing to, oh, okay, I got to do some of these things in order to get to this next part. I'm okay with that. And yeah, I really enjoyed this game to the point where I feel like its story picks up the slack from all of its other more egregious faults.
What's even more egregious is this is a studio that's known for great combat games such as Wall-E, Ratatouille, Up, Toy Story 3. We're talking about certified classics here.
The Surge, The Surge 2.
Recore.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
It was
know
alright.
we know that gameplay isn't their strong suit, right?
Yeah.
I will say though that coming from the first one, I was a little bit surprised about how many gameplay mechanics that they did include. Like the sling was kind of unbearable on the first one, but this time they gave you a pretty good crossbow. They gave you, which is all in the trailers, good more weapon options. Amicia is actually able to fight back. It's not just, unless you're playing on hard, they don't just stroll up on you and they're like, oh, I got you. No, Amicia has the ability to counter enemies if they get too close and like actually punch them in the face basically with her sling. Like she has different opportunities. She can crawl on the ground. Like there's different options. And also the areas are much, much, much bigger. And I think it's for the better for me, honestly, because the
Absolutely.
first game was it was a linear story. Like you're going from point A to point B. And this game, Requiem, takes that up a notch in that, okay, we're going to give you options in that you have this huge level that there are multiple ways to go about this. You can go this way, you can go that way, you can try to interact with the environment in this way, or sneak past, or get into combat and actually have a fighting chance instead of being forced to stealth your whole way through these different areas if you want. And I think that's a step in the right direction, just being able to give you those different options so that if you don't want to, it doesn't have to be a stealth game, although it is. That's what it is.
It is totally a stealth game.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's
sometimes you get the option, right?
You're right though. Like you're trying to. I can hear it in your voice. You're like, you have to justify this game somehow because I love this story. This has to be a game that we love. We shouldn't forget as well. This has been nominated as one of the games of the year,
And it deserves it. I would say it deserves
For
it.
the
I don't-
narrative.
I can probably name 20 games I think deserve it over this game.
Maybe this
I
can
can
be
probably
this needs
name
to be
20.
another discussion. I think.
Yeah,
Because
that-
there's a lot of
I was gonna
issues.
bring it up too. Like
Yeah.
it shocked me. I was like surprised, like that.
It
got
wasn't
not-
making waves. It wasn't
Yeah.
making waves.
It's
Yeah.
one
And-
of those sleeper hits.
Yeah, well,
Definitely put me to sleep.
Yeah. There's 10s all over the board though. Like I think IGN gave it a 10 or one of the IGNs.
No, they gave it an 8. I was just actually looking at their review.
Yeah, but
I
Okay.
think some big outlet did give it a 10 though.
there was quite a
Which-
few outlets that gave it pretty high ratings overall. The user score.
I think it's an 85 overall. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
look, it- I
Deserved.
think there are people scrambling for the gameplay that you're talking about, Alfredo. Like they want choice, they want more combat options, and I think they took that on board and ran with it. But the problem is, in a linear story like that, where the story is the drive, the combat has to be the thing that links it all together. You
Agreed.
also have to signpost that combat based on the elements that they give you and to give you a path. Like there are paths with the progression in that game. You can have an aggressive or a stealth kind of approach to it. But no matter what path I picked, which you can randomly do or do both at the same time, I never looked at one of those open environments and went, all right, this looks like a stealth one. So how do I approach this stealthily? I've got powders over there. I've got, set this on fire over there. That guard's going to walk over there to this guy. No, instead you got guards walking all the way across the map, getting crowded in by rats sometimes, but then jumping fences and leaping walls. And sometimes they see you in the bushes for no reason at all. And I think that's what both games shared in common. They both had jank. And that jank was charismatic in Innocence. The jank combined with the extra combat and how little it meant to the overall story here, except for maybe what you were talking to before, where it's Amicia's journey more so than it is the relationship between Amicia and Hugo. I don't think it connected as well as they wanted it to.
Well, Matt, I definitely want to get into that more deeply.
Me too.
Before we go into spoilers, if there was a Plague's Tale, I don't know what to call it, 3, would you play it?
Afterlife.
Absolutely.
That's what it'd have to be, right?
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah,
Innocence,
there we go.
Requiem, Afterlife.
Oh, that's yeah.
Are y'all playing Afterlife?
Absolutely.
I would wait and see. Like I honestly I really did enjoy the characters. Um like I heard people would say like Amicia's name like all the time prior to this, and I was like, why are they saying that? You know, imitating Hugo, and I never got it, but now I get it. But just in regards to the character progression and seeing them evolve and seeing that the struggles that they went through, that was like one of like the key aspects that I loved about this game. Just seeing that evolution, that insanity sinking in, and that development through them. If going into that one, because like I said, like I'm the only one here that hasn't played the first one, so I didn't have a expectation, but I also didn't have that foundation that you know that's gonna settle me and really connect me with these characters. But I was still able to do that, which was absolutely amazing. But yeah, I mean, for number three, I don't know where they would take it, but yeah, I mean, if they were like, this is Amicia's journey going forward, and I got to see more of that evolution, I think I could play it. It would be just maybe, I don't know.
I'm going to do Thomas's job and say that I think we have to justify a third game through spoilers. I think it's the only way to do it.
Let's do it.
I will say though, real quick though, that just given the track record, I think that I was the only Duke that was excited. Tell me if I'm wrong, Thomas. I think I was the only Duke after playing Innocence who was excited about the second one.
I could have swore I was the most positive about Innocence. I'm pretty sure I was the. I'm pretty sure if it was not just me, it was me and you.
I saw that episode. You guys both hated it. What are you guys talking about?
I didn't hate.
I
like the story.
Details. Anyway, the point is, I was excited. I was really excited about it because the first one, you can tell that like they put their heart and soul into the story, and this one, like I said, surpassed any expectations I had. So the only thing for the third one is that I would want that gameplay, you know, to actually be able to meet or at least catch up a little bit. Maybe it can't meet the amazing bombasticness of the actual writing because it's top tier writing for this game is, but maybe if it could just creep along up to that level. And I think based on the improvements that they did do with this one and what an amazing story that they were able to still tell despite the gameplay flaws and gameplay mechanics, I would be so excited and I would never hesitate to jump on a third game for this one.
To answer my own question, I would call Asobo Studios and ask them, don't make a third game. Call Netflix or call HBO. Get the girl who plays Yelena in Black Widow. I forgot her.
For Amicia?
Thought about this.
Yeah.
She's too old.
No, she's not. She's like 23, Alfredo.
Yeah, but Amicia's 16.
They're 30-year-olds who play high school.
You know what? I'm going to one-up you here. If you've seen House of the Dragon.
Yes. Oh, you're talking about Rhaenyra?
Yeah. I reckon she's it.
Dye her hair. Okay. I like that too. Yeah. Call HBO. Scrap the third game. Whatever you were going to do in the third game, just make that the third or fourth season of this show. Because I feel like this show. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. So
let's see what we're talking about because we're going to get into spoilers. Now, like we said, if you haven't played the game yet and you really want to know, it's a great story. If you really want to know what's going on, wait, come back. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. It's going to be on YouTube somewhere. So just go play the game, come back. You'll get some great material here. So last warning, we're about to spoil the hell out of this game. Please exit if you want to not be spoiled.
Go away.
Get out. All right, I think they're gone.
Yep.
I think we're in the clear.
Warning's gone. We're good.
Welcome back.
First thing I want to bring up, Matt, are you talking about when the florist, when you were saying the first choice you make, when the florist was like, that's when I quit the game. That's when I quit the game for a good
Wait,
long
what
minute.
happened? What happened? Because
Okay,
I missed that.
So
the
there's
herbalist?
a moment. The herbalist, yes.
Okay.
So there's a moment where they say, "Oh my God, I really want to save the herbalist. Oh my God, how are we going to save her?" and or is it? I forgot, was it him or her?
Him.
And I try my hardest to try to save. I'm thinking,
I know what you're talking about.
I'm like, okay, there has to be a way that I'm probably gonna get a trophy of some kind if I save them. So yeah, I'm gonna try to save them. And when on the 15th try, I just Google it, and it tells me you can't save them.
It doesn't matter.
I'm like, God of War had just come out when this happened. I was like, I'm playing God of War. I'm sorry.
You're bitter about this.
No,
this is
the moment.
The game, though.
This set up the rest of the game for me because I did the exact same thing, but I was unpacking how I was looking at this thing. That's probably one of the biggest environments that you hit where the combat happens first. Yeah. This is where your choices matter. You can choose a path through that. You've got like 10 or 15 different ways to approach that. All of them I did because I was trying to save this guy. And what this tells you as a gamer from past experience playing games is that this is the point where I learn either how I approach things here, or this is going to help me unpack the puzzle pieces that allow me to put it together and will set me up for the rest of the game. What this told me is that everything is unpredictable. You've got no fucking idea what's going to happen. Whatever you try, whatever assembly of things, we're in spoilers, so I can say, look, you try for a run, you puff out that light. Oh, okay, cool. The guy gets eaten, Herbalist gets eaten. Okay, I take the long way. I kill everybody all the way around. But that's not short enough for me to get to the Herbalist before he gets stabbed by the guard. The guard starts running around. Okay, get rid of him. Start taking a main line. Go through the church. Get as many items as possible. Wait until the very last moment to trigger this thing. Throw a rock at the guy. Guy gets pissed off, runs after you. Herbalist, no light, dies by rats. Try it again. Kill guys all around. Stay just as close. Sneak into the light by the ramp. Kill the guard. Try to attack him. Light goes out, eaten by rats. I don't think there's any reasonable way to do this other than just Thanosing your way through that entire map and clearing everything in a way that's perfect. Because you have so little aspects available to you in the combat at that point that it's not flexible enough for you to take advantage of anything. And then you find out, dude doesn't give a shit anyway. You save him, you feel great because you achieved something, but he just fucks off or something. I can't even remember. It made me incensed. I put it down at that point and came back to it the next night because I knew it was homework too, but...
I didn't even try.
Me either. I guess we're bad people, huh?
You just let the herbalist die?
I think I did retry one time, and I was like, "Oh, my bad, I killed him." But to be fair, the game does show you, they basically blink with red lights. The siren goes on. If one of your allies are in trouble or needs saving, the game will tell you, and it'll be like, "Save this person, or they're gonna die, and it's gonna be game over." And that didn't happen, so. When I saw him die, I was like, oops, I think I heard that I was supposed to save this guy. Reload, and then I was like, oh, okay, no, it's not going to work. Okay, let's carry on.
But the fact that you turned off might be a whole different thing. You had to turn off your game and go back and actually check. And that's an issue with just game development and really... like I was saying earlier, just in terms of the loops that they provide you and the levels and the choices that Matt is alluding to and just everything, it's there's almost no structure to it. And it's I know when I was going through these levels, this is my first time playing this game, so I'm not sure how to approach it myself. I'm literally running in circles, hitting the guard with the sling. They're knocked out and just kind of wandering for a couple seconds, dazed. Yeah. And I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. And I do this 3-4 times. I'm crawling under tables and I'm just what the hell? What's going on? At this point, where am I going? What am I doing? Am I supposed to save him? Am I not? Right. And eventually I find a door and I'm like, okay, well, I could just go through this door. So, and I don't need to save him. So.
Yeah, I really think that Innocence kind of prepped me for what this game was going to be about and what I needed to do, because a lot of what you're describing also that was in this game was in that game. And I knew what I was in for, right? I knew, oh, you can get to this door, you can avoid these people, but you're going to have to basically figure it out because it's kind of a combination of a puzzle and stealth is the best way I can explain this actual gameplay mechanics, right? Because you got to figure out, okay, what do I actually need to craft? What can I craft? Can I put out this light? Like, what do I need to do to get essentially to the door, to the next checkpoint, really? Because you don't have to kill everyone. You have freedom in that, but also they don't have like a flag, like a giant exclamation over, oh, here's your endpoint, right? You kind of have to figure it out.
The HUD is pretty
And for me,
empty.
I like that. I like that about the game. It to be honest, for a game that, is about controlling rats, this game, I don't know, it feels like a realistic game, even though it's a game about controlling rats. It feels like, okay, it's more of a sim. What is it like to be in a Plague's Tale world? Where are you going to go? How are you going to figure this out as Amicia, a 16-year-old girl who doesn't have the ability to just ramble her way in and charge in and do all of this stuff?
But I'm sorry, my problem is she does do that. Like,
I was going to say,
ramble her way through every encounter.
That is the only thing that they signposted well. There are moments in this game where it is full battle scene mode. She's just murdering everybody.
Yeah.
There are moments where it's fully, with just the sling.
Like,
there are moments
one after another. I'm like,
but the sound design.
Goliath would run so far away from her.
But yeah, that that is the only thing that they signpost incredibly well. The moments when there's going to be combat, where you maybe have to fight things or stealth, the moments where it's environmental puzzling, and the couple of moments when you just have to murder everybody for no reason.
They telegraph it really subtly too. They do it with her voice, because when she changes her tone, you can tell she's going Kratos rage mode. Like you can,
narratively, it makes sense too.
You can tell, and it always makes sense. That's the one I really want to. I know we've been negative, except for Alfredo. I know we've been kind of negative, but one thing I really want to give the game credit for is how it deals with Amicia killing all these people.
Yes, and how early they address it too,
and how
which I was shocked about.
And they tread the line between she's this Rambo killing machine and she's vulnerable. I think they tread that line really well. Where a game that I love, like Horizon Forbidden West, Aloy just feels like Superman the whole time. She's not
it's an Uncharted feeling,
right. And that's a lot again. Not just Horizon, definitely Uncharted as well.
Tomb Raider.
I think
Tomb Raider done well. Right. I feel like
the only other game that I've seen that does it even like as good as this is probably Last of Us Part 2. Like Last of Us Part 2 does have those moments where I'll never forget, like Ellie sitting in the bed with all those scars on her back, just looking like she just feels like a horrible person. And it's like, it really does hammer home. There's a lot of death that she's brought. And Amicia, like, I feel like this game does it even better.
I was going to totally agree. Yeah, because the narrative, like even in between, like The Last of Us, like Ellie is just like, she fills those moments in between, like through cutscenes and through like some narrative. But like when you're killing people, like there's not as much of it. And then with Amicia, like just narratively, like as you're going through the cutscenes, as you're traveling, walking, doing stealth, you can see the toll throughout the entire time that it's taking, except towards the later half. Like she just kind of just like, I just want to kill everyone, I don't care anymore. But like especially in those early parts, like it was definitely wonderful seeing that from her.
There's even a part I think it's chapter 3 where she just did rage mode and everything, and she had to get calmed down, and then she goes with Lucas, and Lucas says, hey, like you went crazy last time, can you kind of not do that again? And I don't remember I don't think you come into a combat encounter that whole entire time. And I was like, that's really great narratively, because like she just had a moment, she lost herself. And I would expect that if she's trying to go walk a different path, she's not going to do the same thing in the next level. I thought that was the gameplay meeting the narrative. That's pretty much almost the only time it happened in the game.
Yeah. And what's really cool is they actually addressed it. In those scenes, Lucas basically tells her, like, you're, like you said, like, not even like checking on her, but he like lets her know, like, you're killing everyone, Amicia, and this isn't okay. and she kind of brushes it off at first, but there comes a point where then she goes even more into it. And then after everything's said and done, she breaks down and she's like, I don't like I'm becoming a monster. I literally can't handle it. I'm shaking. And Lucas has to go out by himself because Amicia is so broken by what she's becoming and what she's willing to do to quote unquote save, or to preserve everyone around her,
And
that
it's a
she doesn't know what to
parallel.
do.
And it's a great parallel too. That's the one thing that's why I struggle. I really love the story of this game. Like the parallel of her becoming the monster while literally her brother is actually becoming a monster. Like that's the narrative I live for. Like I love that. It's like
But I
she's
think,
go ahead.
sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, I was pretty much done.
Well, this is where I think the rubber could have met the road with the combat, because through what you're saying, you're turning me a little bit. Like I didn't pick up on it, but narratively, the way that the gameplay has been set up for those combat scenes kind of does that a bit. Because after that huge, I left Lucas alone and we got in huge trouble moment, murdering everybody, that is only a stealth scene. You get discovered, back to the start.
Right.
But it
I don't
means
think they allow you to use your slingshot.
no.
Yeah.
It was taken from you actually. That's where they built it in.
That's what
you're
it was.
you're
Yep,
actually
there we
tracking
go.
it down. But
There we go.
that bit of the combat or lack of the stealth scene was meant to put in your mind that Amicia is learning about herself with the approach of things. But it puts you on tracks. It's like a Disney park ride where you're going through the Lion King and Simba's run off by himself and gets told his family's important. Like you don't make a choice about your family being important there. You get told it's important, and that's what we're being told here. What my problem with the gameplay not meeting that is that they could have done a much better job, I think, of integrating those components of the gameplay that they want to, build on the story elements, the narrative elements that are so powerful with that combat and that open kind of component to it. They need to signpost it better. Maybe the combat team was busy watching videos of Uncharted and The Last of Us, and they weren't talking to the story team at all to see how they could blend that all together. And I'm going to be making Last of Us and Uncharted references all the way through this spoiler cast because I think that's where they drew all of their inspiration.
I don't even
for
think
this
it's
combat.
Uncharted. I think it's literally just Last of Us. I think they played both Last of Us games and were like, yo, how can we do this without having to spend the $200-300 million that they spent? And what was the one thing they take away? Like, I don't understand. Why can't we aim? Why can't we just free aim
We can.
with the slingshot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, with the slingshot.
Oh, hang on.
it
You're talking
just-
about the sucky suck?
Yeah, like why?
Kind of
Why
pulls
don't
you.
they trust us to just aim the slingshot?
This isn't an FPS,
okay,
man.
I see
I
what
know.
you're saying.
You want to zoom in? Like you want to zero
I
scope on
don't
it?
know. It feels like whenever I'm even in the direction, as soon as I pull a slingshot out, somebody's head's getting clipped. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
room
Yeah.
for error at all. Like,
yeah.
That's fair.
It feels like the whole time it feels like I'm on, like, I think you saying it's like a park ride. I second that. It feels like I'm on like this, like she's like, you're gonna be aiming this slingshot and killing people no matter what, you're not gonna miss. The worst gonna happen is you're gonna hit somebody who has a metal helmet.
Mm-hmm.
But you're
look,
not gonna
that
miss.
that was a
Amicia
problem.
doesn't miss.
No, she doesn't. Well, for that reason.
Of course not.
There's
She's
like
Amicia.
there's a vacuum cleaner sucking in your...
Yeah.
your
Even
Other
Aloy
part.
misses a couple arrows, you know. Like Amicia with the slingshot, like she's a like
She
300
put in
for
that
300.
practice.
dead shot with everything. But I think even that
100%
was a
from the
problem.
field.
The aiming on any guard, like you're doing the picking out how you're going to beat this guard. Like if they're wearing a helmet, clearly I can't slingshot that thing, so I have to do something else. Are they holding something in their hand, in either hand? And am I going to snuff something out in those
Do I
hands? In
gotta
which case,
unlatch their thing with my?
am I
with my
breaking a
slingshot?
lantern? Am I throwing
Yeah.
a pot of tar to then throw a with the sling to break
Which
a lamp?
I really enjoyed that actually, because those aspects of the game where, like, particularly toward the end, with, I think there was a battle, every now and then we get a battle arena, and the comment is not that good. We all already said that. But I did enjoy the diversity that they gave. There was one where you have Hugo, and Sophia, I think is her name, is with you, the pirate lady, the gypsy.
She's the best character in the whole game.
She is a great character. Well, Misi is the best character, but great characters. Anyway, there's
Sophia
one where you're
is
like
so
in this courtyard.
cynical about everything, including the game and everything happening in it. That's why Sophia is cool. Sorry.
It's a cynical ass world in this game.
But the options that they give you, like, are you going to put the tar down? Are you going to light it on fire, create like a fire pit, all of that? I was actually really enjoying that part of it. And I could do with some checkpoints, though, because I don't know about you guys, but during those scenes, like, there might be 6-7 different waves, and if you lose one, you got to start all over. I was not happy about that part, but combat action's good.
And just leading into, I mean, that was one of the parts that bothered me, was the amount of exposition that was like during the game. Like, I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about this year, like with God of War. I've been hearing it quite a bit about Horizon. But how much do you want your characters or characters around you to talk and tell you exactly what to do? Because that's how I felt like a lot of the things were. It was like, oh yeah, use, this powder to throw it out a guard, or use, I don't know. It just, everything was kind of explained to me. It's like, in order to do this puzzle, we have to crank, to do this and bring it around. Upstairs. And we have to look for supplies in order to figure out this puzzle so we can move on and forward. And there was like I said, the story is great, but the amount of exposition and in between, like, really bothered me. I was like, can we sit back for like 2 seconds without you talking, or give me an opportunity to look at my surroundings and figure this out? Or even, I just did this like 30 seconds ago. Why are you telling me again to shoot for the lantern up in the sky so we can spark it, light a fire? I've been lighting fires this entire my last like several hours with this game. I know how to light a fire now. I know how to use my sling. You don't need to tell me every instance, at every opportunity that you get. So
I didn't experience that at all. Like, they were never giving me hints. Were they giving you guys hints too? Like that?
This is what happens when you play on super hard mode.
You gotta play on hard mode, guys. You won't have this problem.
They won't tell you what it is. I did play on easy. I just to say
that's probably why.
So,
but I know what you're saying.
But that's bad though. Like,
it is
hiding hints behind difficulty. I hope that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case either.
I think that's fine. Look that up.
I think if it's the frequency, because I played right in the middle. I was on the developer's intended experience, as they'd say. And I found that I was waiting too long for the hints because I got frustrated in those areas. Really? I was like hitting stuff. I was throwing at things, reticuling up. I was trying to shout to people. I was making Lucas go, like, turn the wheel and let go, turn the wheel and let go, turn the wheel, just to try and trigger something. But I wasn't getting it fast enough. But I know what you mean by the God of War stuff too, because that is insufferable.
Same. I'm not getting any hints for that. I'm
guys,
on hard mode though.
Zero spoilers for God of War Ragnarok here, guys. Don't click off if you're just Blake telling.
But yeah, there was unscreened prompts also, and I mean,
really,
in regards, I had unscreened prompts, so it would tell me like,
right
dude, you're missing out on half the game.
I'm missing out.
But that's crazy. But that's crazy.
It is.
That is crazy. Because like difficulty should not apply to puzzles. Like, I'm sorry. I feel like when you're choosing a difficulty, I feel like 90% of people.
Can you now agree with me that the signposting for the combat and puzzles in this game is not up to snuff? Because if they try to solve it with difficulty, that is a no-go.
I just never heard that before. I didn't know that was an option.
I think it makes sense in games like Last of Us, where a lot of the puzzle solving is to do with your acumen and understanding of the enemies involved. Because there is very little environmental puzzle aspects you're doing there. And they always talk about yellow for climb, green for no access, that kind of thing. Like they signpost that incredibly well. But here, there is very little signposting. And in fact, the thing that annoyed me most about any kind of exposition is the fact that Lucas kept pulling things out of his pockets every
It's
time there was a
always fucking
situation
Lucas.
that
It's
had nothing
always
in it.
Lucas.
It was the Indiana Jones situation.
What
I
was
was
he
going to bring
pulling
this
out?
up. They were.
He's
He was
like,
like-
I got this. What was the thing that like it was the
Oh.
suit, and it was just like basically like fireworks going around.
Dude
I'm
was
like, where did
Yeah,
you
like
pull
the-
this out
Yeah.
from, man?
Like, hey, this is a situation
Whips.
you can't solve.
Oh,
Don't worry,
the fire
I've
lasso.
got it.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm like, what are you?
Okay, that's fair.
What is going on right now? And he's like, I didn't expect it to be that powerful. Like, oh my
He
At
said
some point-
he always said, "Oh, I made this." Like,
No, as soon as he whatever he sounds like, this is why I hate you, Lucas. I hope you.
what? Lucas is great. Well, okay, Lucas is great in the first one, but they really sidelined him on this one. Speaking of which, we should probably talk about the actual story here. Like,
Well,
they sidelined my
where do you
boy
want to
Lucas.
where do you want to start? Because obviously we start with I mean, I didn't hate the tutorial, but I was like, oh, this is gonna be a really dark ass game for starting this light.
Okay,
Like-
can I do a quick summary of the story just to get
Yeah.
us through so we can start picking this thing apart? Because
Let's
I think
do it.
I'd love that.
I think it's going to be there's a lot of meat in there, even though it doesn't feel like there's a lot. But we go far too, and there's probably a lot of things in the gameplay to unpack there as well. So the game starts with you and your family, so Amicia, Hugo, their mother, and Lucas, traveling to a new town with someone who is part of the Order, who's meant to be incredibly helpful. They go to this awesome town. It's like bright. There's a market. Everyone's happy. And you find a house and you're like, yes, I can finally sleep. It's going to be great. We're going to have a good time, have nice fish. And then you're waiting too long for this bloke from the Order. So you go to track him down. And then slowly, over the course of those couple of hours, you start to see bodies. You're rolling through an arena that's blocked off. You start to see the elements of the macula coming and infecting the town. And it slowly gets revealed to you that the politicians are covering up the infection that eventually you realize that Hugo and the family have brought because of the presence of Hugo and his super rat powers. So once you get past that point, it starts to become an avenue of escape. Waves of rats, meet a few people along the road, a lot of opportunities for environmental puzzle solving to maybe not learn how the game works, depending on how much you pick up. After that point, you start moving on towards another town, but there is a point at which, after a certain area, riding a barge, that Amicia and Hugo split from the mother and Lucas, mostly because they don't trust the Order. Hugo has had a dream about a phoenix in an isle that cures him of the macula, and upon having that dream, the rest of the family disregarding it, Amicia starts to believe Hugo and they go out on their own. They meet Arno, a warrior that was previously in Requiem, which was the town that they were originally from.
Yes.
And he takes them to the pirate, Sophia, awesome cynical lady who understands this game quite well.
Totally awesome.
And their goal is then to seek out this isle that Hugo dreamed of, which, funnily enough, Arno knows that Sophia knows the location of, and they need a boat. So then they go to the isle. There is a bunch of macula Order-driven stuff that gets unpacked in this island. This is probably the only open world section of this game, I think, as well.
Yeah, I
where
believe so.
you can kind of run around and do whatever you want, but you unpack
It was like
the bits of this.
an Uncharted open world section.
Yeah, kind of like
Sonic Frontiers open zone.
Oh man,
Not that.
how did that game sneak in here?
This is getting real spicy. So when you do your spin attack as Amicia and start rolling around the island and doing, blue dashes and stuff, you can unpack bits of the environment to solve puzzles to get extra stuff, like extra ingredients and stuff. I did too. I wasn't sure how important the windmills were. Maybe you can tell me that.
Either.
Cool.
Nope. Cannot tell you that.
But what we discover upon much hospitality, like the first area of the game, there is a secret cult that has occupied the island, that has completely misunderstood all of the old...
Sorry.
Ooh, hi, dog. All of the old frescoes and information about Roman times macula dealing, and they've created a mass cult around the Fire Child, who will return to the mother, which we find out later was
Embers.
the Child of Embers. That's right. Which made light incredibly important, which was great. It's a great place to be when rats suddenly appear. But we find out later that the Countess of the island, complete nutter.
Surprise, surprise. When I saw this lady, I was like, she's evil.
You saw the eye twitching in the background, and you were like,
Emily.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
they invited her to dinner? Like,
Yeah,
like,
they sure did.
it feels weird, right? It feels
Yeah, I
so
was like,
weird.
y'all
This
are
was the
evil.
part where this was the weakest part of the story for me. Just me personally, because as soon as they said the Child of Embers, I already knew. I was
Yeah,
like,
we were like, oh, God.
God. I was like, that's Hugo, or that's going to be Hugo. You know,
But it sets up the rest of the game after this section. And look, you discover everything about what you need to about the macula from the past. You discover that the macula infecting certain people of a genetic predisposition has happened several times across history, and in searching for a solution for a cure, you find that there is none. Only that there is some sort of prophetic setup that we have here of a guardian and a child imbued with the power of the macula that eventually goes DEFCON 1 and just destroys the planet or something.
Causes the Justinian plague to be more specific. But yeah, pretty much.
I love the specificity. I'm
recap.
playing up. I'm trying to make this sound silly, but you're actually dialing me in. That's a good thing.
I'm here with the facts.
Trying to accelerate towards the end here. You spend a bit of time on that island. The Count goes nuts. Countess more nutso. Somehow Lucas and your mother find you, knowing absolutely nothing about where you went. Convenient for the story.
I think that because they knew they were going to an island. And they kept mentioning, like, oh, what's the name? Not Lucas. Hugo kept mentioning it looked like two fingers. So I headcanoned that they figured it out because they're two smart people.
Right.
That's probably fair.
But it is hair.
Smart.
And Amicia does say that. Like, well, Hugo's like, will they be an array, Amicia? And she's like, yeah, they're the two smartest people I know. And they figured it
absolutely
out.
fair. That's an amount of slack that I'm willing to give it.
headcanon, though. I will ultimately admit that.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Amicia and Hugo's mother is killed by the Countess, who wants a child, which ends up being Hugo, which is the Child of Embers. Then he does start to go DEFCON 1, but not before they find where the macula was trying to bring them. However, it communicates with Hugo to basically the home base of where all this rat plague stuff, I've forgotten what they call it. It's not the Enigma, but it's got a very specific name.
The macula.
No, they called it something else. It was like the nebula.
Yeah, it's like the macula and the nebula like combiner or something.
Yeah, it's like the brain of this thing that's running all the rats. So they find it. Amicia gets pissed off, makes it pissed off. They do big run out of cave, and then all of a sudden the entire island is swarming with rats, which every guard is fine with because they're like, this is the prophecy. The rats have come, so the Child of Embers is near, or some bullshit like that. And look, there's a lot of violence in this section as well. It does get quite confronting at this point, I think, because the Count goes full native on Amicia when he's just been chasing her in a very weird stealth scene throughout the entire castle, trying to track her down. Like dislocates her shoulder at some point. And upon that point, they try to escape in a boat, leave the island. The Count chases after them in that boat, steals Hugo, brings Hugo to Marseille, which is where he had intended to go, the macula and all that stuff. They wanted to protect as many people as possible. So, of course, they go to the highest, most densely populated city in all of France.
It is
Hugo
important, though. Oh, you were about to say it. Yeah, Hugo thinks that Amicia is dead because when he was brought on the boat, basically Amicia gets pretty much fatally injured. Like she The arrows
Yeah.
actually hit her this time.
If you wanted to define plot armor,
In a
I
cutscene.
think what Amicia has is how you'd define it.
But
Because
yeah,
she cops it.
she basically is pretty much dead, but Arno is able to basically save her
For the
Yeah.
second time.
for the
Yeah.
second.
Snaps an
Well,
arrow.
we skipped the
pulls it
part
out.
where he actually betrayed them, but you know, everyone played
Yeah.
the game. We know he betrayed
I think-
them. Everything's
think
fine. We
it-
saved him after.
I think that is a smaller portion, if only because it made Amicia pissed off again, and Hugo got a bit resentful, which they both were already. I think it just pulled Arno off the scene, which I think didn't contribute to the combat, because one of the things we haven't talked about yet is the way your
NPCs
companions help you.
Mhm.
Arno, you can tell him to beat stuff up for a level. Teaches you that really well. You never get to use it again. So, I don't know.
Arno sucks.
Anyway,
I hate him so much. And then
They're
I
in
loved him, and then
Marseille.
I
Wait, what?
hated
You
him,
hate-
and then
wait,
I liked
you
him.
hate him?
It was complicated.
You hate
It was
him?
yeah, because finish the review and then we'll talk about the character.
okay.
Oh, man.
So we're in Marseille. Hugo thinks Amicia is dead. He's like, huh, no problem. Full nebula. You see massive explosion, kind of reminiscent of the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, I think. Really got good
Beautiful.
feels from that. Poetry, right?
Yeah, poetry.
So Amicia has to, by herself, fight off a bunch of goons while Arno is fighting the Count, because they track them down on a beach. And then Amicia one-shots the Count after Arno whips his helmet off, which
Well,
I think
Arno
is...
sacrifices himself, which is why I liked him again.
He goes full
for-
movie mode.
Yeah.
He's like, he gets stabbed with the sword because he mucked up, and then he pulls himself into the sword
further
to
into
get
the sword.
close.
It was awesome.
Takes
It
the
was
head
awesome.
off.
Look at the scene, guys.
It's a classic move. Classic move. Maybe Thomas in the show notes or description or whatever, we can link to whatever
Link it.
video you use to finish it off, and they can catch it.
Yes.
So Amicia kills the Count. They need to go and stop Hugo from going Macula level 3, I think they call it. And that's like a really weird journey through a destroyed Marseille, trying to get to... Oh,
I haven't finished the game yet. Why just spoiling it for me? No, just keep
I'm
on going.
sorry.
No.
Would
Yeah,
you
you're
like to
fine.
go?
We're almost done though.
You're not too far away. I've got to be honest. Essentially, where that ends, because I think we'll want to unpack how it actually ends, through a series of hallucinogenic experiences, like hallucinations, where Hugo, in his nebularized state, was trying to help Amicia discover herself and come to terms with the fact that she is going to have to kill Hugo to make this stop. And then, once again, Lucas disappears and then mysteriously finds her again. Lucas, the most powerful character in this game.
Y'all are haters.
He's
Lucas
Full
is
Metal
great.
Alchemist.
I'm seriously not being snide there. I think in that moment, what Amicia had to get through to lie down on the ground in front of where Hugo is, and Lucas just pops up, that's like, I don't know what he had to get through to get there. But yeah, so basically that's a narrative approach to Hugo embroiled in this nebula thing. Single, very slow, reticled to aim sling right to the head, fade to black. And then a post-initial credits cutscene where we see Amicia in the forest, in the villa, the house that they mentioned that they were going to escape to before the Count tracked them down in the boat. And kind of just a little bit of unpacking. Her coming to terms with a life without Hugo. That is a very condensed version that skips a lot of stuff, as you guys have mentioned already. But it kind of gives you the tenor of the progression of the story in this game.
Two things toward the end I think you missed. And maybe everybody missed this because I had to look this up myself. But do you know what happens if you don't? Because you know you have a choice there when it's time to kill Hugo.
You do.
Oh, do you?
You can
Yeah,
let Lucas
like,
do
if
it
you
for
don't do it, Lucas will kill him.
Oh, so it's like
And
like false choice-based determinism. Hugo must die, but you can save yourself from doing it.
But the crazy thing is, in the post-credit scene, if he kills Hugo, then Amicia's
Amicia's mad about
dialogue
it.
changed a little bit, and
Yeah.
and so when Sophia asked him, when she asked him, like, "Where's where's Hugh? I'm like, where's Lucas? She's like,
I can't look at him.
I
Still.
can't look at him. He killed my brother. Like, I get he had to, but I can never look at him again. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You robbed me of choice in a lot of aspects in this game, but that's a pretty good one to leave in. And that's a pretty decent Easter egg, I thought. The other thing you missed is the end credit scene where I hear a hospital, a modern day hospital going off.
Yep, a little
Is
beep,
that right?
beep, beep.
And you hear like the little beep, beep, beep in the background.
And it
And you see a
shows.
baby's arm with the macula. So,
Yep.
like,
Oh yes, I did see that actually. I did.
So they
Which
set up
is
for number 3.
a little worrying
But-
for me because I don't want them to do an Assassin's Creed up here.
No,
where
but
they
this
just
is where
skip
the story
timelines.
was going, right?
and this is-
Essentially,
Mhm.
they solved nothing.
Yeah,
They changed nothing.
exactly.
Here's my big issue with how it ends. And I don't want to spoil this other thing, so I'll just say one of my favorite manga series of all time ends very, like, in a weird way, very similarly to this game. I don't know who copied who, but like the end to this, it's so specifically like almost the same ending.
Mm-hmm.
Different characters exchange and everything, but it's like, and I'm sure there's other stories that end in a similar way where, oh, the loved one has to kill the other main character.
Yeah.
Yeah, no such thing as an original story.
No such thing.
You gonna make
But-
a name for this thing?
I do not. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings if they haven't read or watched this. It's a very popular something. It's a very popular show. But I digress.
Okay.
The other important thing I thought that was a big moment in this game was when Amicia and Hugo were apart for a long time. For a very long time in this game. From like chapter 2 to I believe 4 or 5. Those are all with Lucas.
Actually, I was also going to make a comment about that because I was shocked how much time you actually do spend with Hugo in this game. Because in the first game, if you guys remember, if you played it, you do not spend a lot of time with Hugo. Most of the time, Amicia is with. She runs into, sorry, spoilers for the first one, but she's with any of the other orphan kids, basically. She's always with somebody else. Her job is to get back to Hugo. She's trying to figure out who took Hugo, how to get to him. That's her job in the first game. So we actually spent so much less time with him. And in this one, it's the complete opposite, where
But it feels
we're
like it's
only
going to be
not
that
with
same
him for
thing,
a little.
though. And then you get that moment where Amicia is off the boat. Hugo goes to save her. And then the mom and Lucas are like, hey, come back to the boat. And they're just looking at them like, nah, because they were just not down. Because the mom wanted to basically lock Hugo
To lock him up, yeah.
which not the worst decision in the world. Looking back on everything.
Well, now that we know the
Well,
ending, right? Now that we know that,
But
there
even
is
at
actually no care.
at the time, though, when that decision was made, I was like, you know what? That's not the worst decision in the world.
At that time, we saw the rats already tearing down buildings. So, I mean, what are they going to lock them up in? Like, these rats
But
are
I feel
breaking
like
through ground.
he
And
gets locked. But he gets when he gets animated and when he gets upset. That's what happens. I feel like if you lock him up,
he's only going to get upset.
Well, that's the thing. There's
Yeah,
so
that's
many
true.
loose threads with this, and
yeah,
the Lord of the Rings reference that I was alluding to at the very beginning of this chat is the whole, well, the owls could have just flown Frodo to Mordor kind of thing that people say about dropping the ring in Mount Doom. Mount Doom? Is that right?
yeah.
There's been too much
pretty-
Doom news lately.
I'm pretty sure.
starting to
I'm
get
pretty sure it's
confused.
Mount Doom. I'm like 90% sure.
Yeah, why don't the owls just fly Frodo to Mount Doom, drop the ring in the mountain, and then you short circuit 3 very long movies where a bunch of people died.
But
In
is
this
you
case-
guys' solution to lock him up? Like, is
I'm
that
not
the
saying it's a
solution in this
solution.
case?
I'm saying what Amicia was saying was like what Hugo and Amicia were trying to do is kind of unreasonable.
I disagree.
I think they had to try and find something to resolve it, but nothing came about from this. Like there's no important learning that we as the player, the people who are observing and experiencing this stuff, have been able to draw and pick up
I completely
for
disagree.
the next game.
Completely.
I
Well, tell
agree
me.
with you. I agree with you from an actual like lesson to be learned standpoint, like in hindsight, yes, like
Mhm.
this was just as bad of a course if they went to go lock Hugo up. I think both would have resulted in pretty much the
But
same conclusion.
They had another solution too. They were going to go into the mountains, and Hugo was going to be so chill, he was not going to get any seizures or anything. And they didn't even get to
That
explore
was the
that.
plan, right?
But they live in
the
this horrible era. It's not like they live here. It's not like they live in 2022 where it's like, yeah, you could probably, give him a Xanax or something and have him chill
But
out.
I mean,
Yeah, they go
is-
Hulk on him and give him a
Right.
cardio watch.
As soon as some bandit comes around, and because that's what happened in the first scene of the game where they're having a good old time. Like it's her and Lucas. They're playing around. That's the tutorial I was referring to, where they're just like, that's how they kind of teach you the stealth stuff. You're playing hide and seek. That's why I knew, this game's about to be fucked up.
Oh, right.
We're playing hide and seek for the tutorial. Oh
Forgot about
no,
that was fun.
and remember, like some bandits came, and Hugo
You're
lost it. Like before, I think you started. I think at your summer after that, but that's where we start.
well, they
where
fell in the
Hugo-
castle. They shouldn't have been playing.
Yeah, they shouldn't have
in
fell in
some
the
kind of
castle.
Right, but that's the whole thing. Like Hugo is going, like Hugo's a kid. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to put himself in these compromising positions. So it's going to be next to impossible to have a kid not be stressed out at something.
That's
But-
true, but I and this goes back to the lesson that should, or I think that the writers, and I think they did succeed in the story they wanted to tell. At this game's heart, this is about, like I said before, the spoiler wall even came up. This is about the lengths that you're going to go to save the person that you love. And the point is, Amicia is not willing to let her brother go. The mother, clearly, I think her name's Beatrix, like
Yeah,
she's
Beatrice,
willing to,
yeah.
let's just lock him up. Like it's for the good of the people, right? Like he needs to be locked up. Yeah, he's my child, but he needs to be locked up. And Amicia isn't willing to do that. She's not willing to see someone who she loves, Hugo, her brother, to be locked up and in her mind tortured. And
But she's making a moral choice there.
she is.
She is saying, like, she's basically making the Joel choice,
Exactly.
right?
And
Where
this is
she's
a
saying,
reverse
I
Last
don't
of Us.
care how many
Mhm.
people get killed because of my
Exactly.
brother being out. My brother is going to be out, and we're going to this damn island.
But I think the difference is that Amicia doesn't think that far ahead. She's not purposefully thinking, I don't
knows
care how many people
Well,
dies, until Hugo literally makes her see that at the
But
end, where
she's
he's like,
liter-
look at
no.
what we've done.
But she's
I would
literally
disagree with
crawling.
that.
She's literally crawling through dead bodies in every section of the game.
Yeah,
Both
but
of-
she has her blinders on. She's not willing to see it. She's like, this doesn't exist. All that matters is that Hugo is safe. He's my top priority. And it's not until that he dies that Hugo is gone and she has to go save him. And Hugo says, look at all these hallucinations. Look at the village that we passed through like 15 hours before. Everyone's dead and we did this. And you have to kill me or else this will continue. And that's the decision she has to make. Now she's saying, okay, either I'm going to do this or I don't, because you're right. And I think that is the lesson to be learned. How far are you willing to go to ignore all of this around you and take off your blinders in order to be like, to make that moral choice of, I'm going to consciously make this evil decision or I'm going to ignore it all. What am I going to do? And I think that's the lesson of this game. You can't.
Go ahead, Finest.
Did she really have blinders on? I mean, I would say she only
I
had
don't think
blinders
she had
on
blinders at all.
towards the end, but towards the end when she actually found out that there was others before her.
Mhm.
I think the
you know, and what
blinders is a bad way to. It's a way of saying that she ignored what was in front of her, which finds
She
saying
did.
they knew
I think
nothing.
she did.
They knew
Yeah, I
nothing
think
about the macula.
Yeah, and I think that
No, but they
prior to
know
she
that
believed-
wherever Hugo goes, death follows. Like they know that. Like Emisa, like I don't think she had blinders on that. She knew that. Like when you're walking through the dead bodies in that section where they found out the government's been hiding, she knows right there that Hugo is the cause of this.
She does,
Yeah.
but her concern is never about, oh, look at all the destruction we caused. Her concern is about what about Hugo's okay. The second, third threshold is passing and he's gonna be taking over. He's gonna be taking away from me. Not that all these other people are dying. She doesn't see that. She doesn't care. She is so focused on him and making sure that he isn't taken over by the macula. That's what she like is super laser focused on.
And the
And
path
I
that
think
she
they did a great
took
job.
led him to become one with the macula.
Yeah.
And I think the way you phrased it is definitely glass half full. The way I would phrase the theme of the game is sometimes you gotta let go of toxic people. Like that's how I feel.
Oh,
what the theme is.
Hugo's not talk. Hugo's
He's
5 years old.
literally killing
fine.
thousands indirectly. That's toxic. That's toxic.
Indirectly though. Like
Hey,
So interesting.
He doesn't wanna do
toxicity doesn't have to be like something you
Oh
know
my
you're
gosh.
doing. Like he's literally killing people. Not. I mean, he's killed people directly before, but in terms of the thousands that are dying whenever he's in a town, like I'm not saying he's doing it on purpose, but Amicia knows this is happening because of him. She's dealing with the toxicity of this relationship because she loves him, but she's not willing to make the hard decisions for him. Because I think that locking him up while messed up, that's a more sound decision than going to this island that he's talking about.
But that's
because he has
she
no
would
idea.
never do that though, because that's not having Hugo live his best life, right? And that's her top priority. That's the only thing she cares about. She doesn't want to see him being
So here it is.
She even says that she
But I
they
think
would
it's more of a
torture him.
selfish thing. Like
Oh,
she
for
doesn't
sure,
want
for
to
sure.
live.
I
with Hugo being
think where
gone.
we are right now is we're reenacting the writer's room, where the two people who built this game had an argument about what it's actually about, and
Me and Alfredo.
the
Yeah, we were
objective
there.
the objective choice is for someone who has respect for humanity to lock the thing up that keeps making Ratatouille. But you know, the relationships.
Ratatouille.
I'm just throwing things out
I
there.
couldn't let that go. I'm sorry. Like the rats. I'm sorry, man. That's great.
But it's not about that. It's about their relationship and where things end up, and having to deal with the decisions that they've made based on that. But my main issue with it is that there is some meeting in the middle somewhere overall, which is most of all epitomized by the second end credit scene, where we're going to be thrown back in a modern world version of the macula, where there has to be something that we take away that we've learned about the macula from here, except other than the fact that it's completely fucked up and it kills people. All that we've done is use this medieval time to explore the past, what has happened, figure out that what we've been doing has done nothing, figure out that whatever we can do is there's nothing that we can do except lob a rock at this guy's head and take him out of the picture. What I would want to see if we were progressing the macula storyline is to find something that points us to hope. But at the same time, not every story is about hope. Sometimes it's just a character journey about people and their experiences and how they got through or didn't get through a situation.
Yeah. That's good.
And look,
That's definitely a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why the story in this game is so excellent, and that maybe people rated it so highly on their scores in those little spreadsheet things that they use to calculate game review scores, that it rated so highly. Like it probably got 150 for story, but had to crank it back down to 50, and so someone gave it a 10. 50 for the combat, I mean. And so it gave it a 10. But the fact that we can argue about what we pulled from this game, that we've had a very personal experience with the story and drawn what we want it to, like get toxic people out of your life, do anything for your family. Whatever Finus has been trying to say for the last 20 minutes. I think that tells us a lot about the experience of this story and how enthralling it is. Mm-hmm. It is a very compelling story.
It is.
I'm not saying anything. Nope. Don't look at me now. No, I was gonna say for a couple different things. I was just gonna say Thomas. I mean, I think that it wasn't ignored. I felt like she wanted to believe in what her brother was saying, because her brother was saying, Hugo was like saying, like, no one is listening to me. No one believes
true.
in me. Someone please believe in me. And ultimately she made the decision to do that when, after experiencing, and sitting back, as she said, like, she sat there for days, she sat there for weeks, and saw nothing come but her brother tortured.
It was
So
like a 2-week period, right?
It was a while.
It was a
Yeah,
good amount
kind
of
of
time of
unfold.
like just that's a lot of time to hear your brother like going through pain
yeah,
every
and
single day.
so she wanted to believe in the fact that, like, taking her brother to the pond was going to fix her brother. It was gonna cure her brother, and was gonna ultimately stop the deaths all leading around her, because the deaths were affecting him. He didn't want to see the people die. He
Mhm.
blamed himself. He felt like he was a monster. At that point, I mean, early on, like, I thought he was going to say, kill me.
I think he did.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
said it.
I think he
He
did
didn't
too, yeah.
say it, but there was
He
a
was
bunch
done
of
with
times
this
in the
game.
game.
He
Yeah,
was
kept
done with this
saying-
game early.
Yeah, he kept
Yeah.
saying, "Did I do all of this?" And
it was
Amicia
after
would
the
be like,
first
"It's fine,
when
don't look."
when the first town was ravaged by the rats. He's like, "Did I do this?" Like you could hear it in his voice. And I
Yeah.
have to say, just
Mm.
from an acting
Oh
standpoint,
my god.
like Hugo definitely like I like other characters more, but Hugo's character, like he might be one of the best kid characters in a video game for me.
Agreed.
Like I love whenever he's on screen, like usually kid characters, as Alfredo knows, I fucking hate Atreus in God of War. I hate Atreus. Like
Which one?
the
2018
first
Atreus.
one. I
Kid
hate
Atreus.
Atreus.
Oh,
That
there's nothing wrong with him.
it ruins that game for me. 'Cause
It's just a Thomas thing.
This kid's a fucking brat.
Dad
Fires
story.
his arrows.
all
that
he
basically do
remembers is
nothing.
him saying whatever. That's
Look
all
at
he
his
remembers.
dad. I mean, if I had a dad like
Exactly.
that, I'd be fucked up too. Just like,
He's like absentee dad.
I would not
Dad's
be
not
a
buying this
brat.
stuff.
I would not be a
Yeah.
brat.
Yes, you would.
No, I
You
would
so
not.
would.
I'd be like, yes, sir.
No, you
Whatever
would.
you want, sir.
Reel
Don't
it
chop
back
me
in.
with,
This is
don't
the
chop
point
me off
still.
with the axe, Dad. Please. But just comparatively, I think Hugo is so realistic for his age.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he never feels like because I think like writing video game kid characters is hard. Because one, you really don't see many kids in video games to begin with. And then when you see them, they kind of are the same archetype. I think they do a really good job of showing like there are layers to Hugo, and he's a lot deeper than just, I want to play outside, I want to play hide and seek. Like you can there are many moments in the game where you can tell like he is actively thinking about the damage he is unwillingly causing.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
thought that was handled with care, and I commend the voice actor and I commend the writing because he's probably the most powerful character in the whole game.
I was gonna
let's not go
say.
that far.
Well, yeah. Well, I was gonna say that.
Well, he
Lucas.
is technically
Lucas
the
is the most powerful.
Oh yeah,
he's-
he is. Okay,
he's
okay,
technically the
literally
most powerful.
We're rats. Okay,
he's
got
doing
it.
Dragon Ball Z Rat Blast.
Well, I was actually gonna say, yeah. Well, I definitely share that about Hugo, but Amicia, like her performance throughout this whole game. I think her name. What's her name? Charlotte McBurney, and she was nominated for best voice acting. She gave a performance in this game.
I liked her better in the first game though.
Oh, her voice acting. I thought she went above and beyond. I think they did a lot better job going into like her trauma and her turmoil, and also seeing how she deals with those emotions. I thought the voice actress for Misa was incredible, and she deserves awards for the performance that she gave, because it quite frankly, it was amazing. One of the best performances I've ever seen in a video game, hands down.
It's a big
Yeah,
call.
the only person we should be worried about is Lucas, because he didn't seem phased by any of it. Like, how old is he? Like 12, and he's just like, it had to happen. Like,
Lucas
he's
is
just
very
gonna
mature.
He'll pull nuclear power out of his bag, and we won't even have to worry.
Lucas is
He's
just
like,
very
roast
objective.
everyone. Yeah.
He knows he's not emotion filled. They had a little bit of that in the first game, and where we got to spend a lot of time with him, and I loved Lucas in the first one. So I'm a little bit disappointing he got backseated in this one. But Lucas is, like he has always been, very objective. He just didn't get to show that much personality other than being the voice of reason this time around, unfortunately.
He had his journey though. In the first game, he was with a family and a dad that didn't respect him, and he was trying to become a huge alchemist. You know,
Are you gonna say a mathematician?
no, alchemist. I was trying to make a Full Metal Alchemist reference in there for the anime fans who may be sticking around, but completely lost it. Edward, that's his name. Ed. Anyway,
Ed.
Yeah, Lucas had his time. I think in the absence of a father figure, Lucas probably was that in the game. He was the male influence that was telling them what they needed, gave them the stuff they needed to get on with the rest of the story, and do their thing.
Yeah.
I will say I'm a little bit disappointed. I feel like it was a missed opportunity for Lucas to be, I guess, closer or have a closer bond with Amicia in the final moments. Because toward the end, Amicia is basically, all she cares about is Hugo. And she's basically like, if I don't have you, Hugo, I have nothing. Like our mother and father is dead. I have nothing. And then Lucas shows up and
and she's like, I still have nothing.
Right. She kind of acts that way, which I'm a little disappointed in that, because in the first game, they really had a really strong bond. It was Amicia, Hugo, and Lucas. Like, it was the three amigos. Like,
I feel like
they're family.
the thief girl was closer with her than
Sophia?
No, the thief girl from the first game.
From the first game. She left them so quick because she didn't care. But they were
I feel
really...
like if you ask Amicia who'd you rather hang out with for the rest of your life, she's probably picking that girl.
No, she would pick Lucas. They did have a few scenes where she said, Lucas, you're my family. Like, you're coming with me to the mountains. And Hugo, like, you're my family. I want you to be there. But they didn't really go into that more when... I feel like when it could have counted even more, when she did have to make that final decision to kill Hugo. They didn't really be like, well, you still have Lucas. Like, Lucas is still... He was there, but nothing was said to be like, I'm still your family. I'm here.
Maybe he's more of the guardian angel. Maybe that's the thing. He's the voice. No, I'm being serious here. I think he's more of the voice on the shoulder, the person who's there for Amicia when she needs advice.
Though, because he wasn't that in the first game. He was just family to them, and not...
Well, let's go full literature mode with this, which I think you've done already. But if we're evaluating him as a character and he was to be perceived as a guardian angel and his contributions in Requiem compared to the first, he has a lived experience, a different kind of understanding of the macula and the approach, which is partially why he was separated from Amicia and Hugo to begin with. Otherwise, he would have been there the whole time if he was supportive of that. I think... he was there as a purely informational resource, a support, a guiding light for Amicia when she was having really tough times. And let's not forget, we're in a game here, and in games, just like in TV shows, inner dialogue is hard to do. So sometimes if you need someone to say something, you got to have someone there for them to say it to.
Right.
Even though Amicia is great at saying things to herself. I think there's a lot of narrative devices in there that really pushed Lucas to be a part of things. Not more so than seeing Sophia fall over and mysteriously sprain her ankle and she can't go on anymore into Marseille. Like, they kind of dropped her after they didn't really want to bring her along anymore.
Well, I think they did that because they wanted to keep her alive.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's the
story.
story.
If you have her go, she's going to die there.
But they also didn't want her to, be like, oh, I can kill him if you need me to. Because I feel like Sophia would do that for...
I think she wanted to do it.
She would take that slingshot real quick.
Yeah.
The one
She's
thing...
probably going to snap his neck.
Yeah, speaking of Sophia, I do want to bring up, like, with the ending the way it is, like, they go out on the journey to go find the next macula, right? Like, that's
Basically,
what that journey is, right?
She says, Amicia says that I'm gonna, like, all she said is she wants to find, like, where the next macula is gonna be so I can, like, help guide the next protector.
So,
yeah, she wants to set up the next journey for the next guardian to find out as much as possible about the macula. And that is probably something that I should give credit for, that the thing that they have learned is that Amicia can set the next one up to get their on-ramp to be a little bit faster than theirs was. They'll get it in half a game instead of 2 games.
The one thing that, and again, I don't think the game ever confirms this, but it seems like the Macula is kind of like a reincarnation thing, and it reincarnates every so often generations. Because what's his name? The original, not original, but the one before, Basilisk. Thank you.
Something like that.
Like what was it, like couple, like 300-400 years before?
And
I think it was the next
300
one
or
was
400.
Yeah, and the next one was Hugo.
What I thought there was some in between there, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think they meant. I think it's literally like from him to Hugo. So she's not about to find the next Macula, especially when you look at the end credit, the second end credit scene.
Yeah,
because the second end credit scene takes place in modern day. So I'm like, did she look for the rest of her life for the next Macula and didn't find shit?
No, I think what I picked up is that she wants to leave the breadcrumbs for the next one so that they can learn.
They have something to go off of.
So why were the alchemists in the in the beginning, like the experts, if it's like that long in between? Like, did they just like pass that knowledge for generations and they know absolutely nothing about it? Because that's what it. Okay.
They basically explained it that they're the order and they have all the information that has gathered through generations about the Macula, basically.
Yeah. But they only have the confirmed information that they know, which is the only solution without any other facts is to lock them up. And then we, poke and prod and do all this weird shit to them.
Also, I'm reading the wiki, and this is something I didn't pick up on, but apparently the wiki says that the reason why Hugo was getting those visions were because those visions were implanted in him by the Order.
The Macula, right?
Not the Macula, Order. That's what it says.
Oh, I thought it was the Macula
that
brought him there.
Was it the Macula? Yeah. Let me see.
I'm pretty sure because the Macula, if I'm not mistaken, the Macula basically drew him there with hopes of, there's a cure possibly here. But actually, it was just the source of where it happened in the first place. And then right after that, they got swarmed by rats. So it was kind of like a trap.
Yeah, you're right. That is what it is.
I thought he was taking visions from previous people hosts from the Macula.
That's what they thought it was.
The Assassin's Creed of things.
Okay. The My Hero Academia things.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So that the Macula is basically drawing it to home base.
Yeah, essentially. That's how I understood it.
So basically, it's essentially they avoided the path that they ended up walking. They wanted to avoid the Macula, but they ended up going to the Macula thinking it was a cure.
Mm-hmm. That's right. They had to go to Mount Doom to drop the ring in the mountain, but that's also where Sauron was. So
only they had, apparently.
Yeah, this is just a game that it's definitely a video game. It's one thing I know for sure. It's definitely one of the games of all time. But
don't do that. Don't be that guy. I'm really tired of hearing that phrase. Like, it was the whole.
That's what they're saying for Sonic. I feel like Sonic has the meme right now. Sonic is definitely a video game of all time.
I can't wait to play that game, just like I played this game. But I will say, I don't know, guys. This game does rank extremely high on my Game of the Year list.
This is like probably in the 20s. It's not the fact. It's the fact that the game part of this I don't have fun with. Fundamentally, like I can wax on, wax off about the story. I think the story has so many layers. I think we can talk so much about the story of this, but I'm sorry, that only takes it so far for me.
If this was a Detroit Detroit Become Human or a Telltale game, I think I could have been really down with this. Like if it was just presented differently, but just the fact that Matt said he continuously dropped the controller. Thomas played it 3 different ways and he wasn't able fell asleep. I
Steam Deck on my face.
God.
I think that's the most important thing. How can you gather a story? How can you be embraced by a story if you can't get from plot point A to plot point B without frustration? So I mean, it can't rank high for me and for those particular reasons, and that's why I found it kind of surprising that it's ranked as high as it was. But in the same respect, for those that are able to get through it and get through these plot devices, kudos to you. And I mean, it definitely deserves recognition in a lot of different regards.
It's way too similar in theme to me to The Last of Us Part 2. I have a lot of I like that game a lot. I give that game like an 8 out of 10. So if I give that game an 8 out of 10, like that's where I'm like, I'd have to put this at like a 6 in overall, just because like the gameplay is not the worst gameplay I played all year, but it's not Game of the Year worthy.
Mm-hmm.
The story
Yep.
is,
Yeah, I
but
think
if I have
I
to
agree with
watch
that.
a YouTube video of the story to get that, like, because I don't want to go through the rest of the game. Like, I do think, for me at least, that's a problem with the game fundamentally. And like you said, if it was a Detroit Become Human, like if this was Detroit Become Human, to me, this probably would be like top 3 games I played all year. But the fact that you have to sit through, I'd say on average, 12 hours at least of combat and like stealth.
Yeah, somewhere
That's-
around there.
That's 11 more hours than I'd like for this game.
That's fair. For me, yeah, I was able to. I enjoyed the gameplay. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I enjoyed the gameplay as a means to an end. And that's where it sat with me. But like I said before, the story was just so above and beyond of what I was expecting and what I got that it superseded. It made me excited to play the gameplay so that I could get to the next story, be the next cutscene. And I didn't have as many bugs and stuff that you guys did. Like, I didn't experience those things with the frustrations and the NPCs giving me hints and stuff. I was able to stealth my way when I wanted to take out people when I wanted to. I wasn't having as many issues. But yeah, the gameplay is this game's Achilles heel for sure, which is unfortunate when we're talking about a video game. But for me, it wasn't bad enough to make me not like the game.
One thing we didn't mention, this AI is horrible. Like, the AI for the guards are bad to me. Like, they are so predictable. And when you get caught, I know when you play on ultra hard mode like Alfredo does, they catch you one time. But if they catch you in any of the other modes, they hit you. And then they let you get back up and run away. And they don't run and chase you.
That's hilarious.
I have never, I remember the first time it happened, I was like, really? Like, the guards aren't going to run? Like,
They just walk?
They don't run. The guards do not. I did not see one guard run the whole. I looked for it. Like, I didn't see a guard run once.
You were running away. Are you chasing me?
They don't run. They
run backwards.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny because you get hit and then they just let you get back up. Like, why wouldn't you follow up?
Well, Arno ran after Amicia, and he was running quick. He's fully armored, and I was like, it was like Friday the 13th. I was like, how is he over here?
It's crazy.
I'm ducking under.
He's the only enemy that stood out in the whole entire game.
Oh my god, Arno. I have so many conflicted feelings about him. He won me over at the end, but
he was a great character. I like
the Count. The Count also was
I was going to say the Count.
It was fast.
Yeah, he was moving quick too.
He speed walked.
Yeah, I was like, how are these people appearing from all these? Like, they know this castle better than me, obviously.
Oh my god, that boss fight with him. The boss fight with him when you have to like lock him in the door. I was cranking this thing. He was walking fast. I was like, hurry! Going all around the room. No.
That was a bad stealth scene. I hated
the boss fights are not great either, of course.
Yeah,
I feel like they could have saved so much money and just made this, like you said, Detroit Become Human game. They could have saved so much money and they probably would have had a better game.
I was neither immersed or I did not have fun. And I think that's like, if I had to like break it down to like one sentence, I think that's my kind of my final thought or my impression of the overall game. I wasn't immersed because I kept getting pulled out. and then I didn't have fun. And in terms of games, those are probably the two biggest things that I'm looking for.
I'm curious to see if you would. Did you do a Let's Play of Innocence? Not you playing it, but just the cutscenes watching the story? Did you say that? I think
You
you
watched
saw
a
a
recap. You
name
watched a
in
recap.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Got
I
it.
did.
Let us know what
I
you think after you do like just a recap of it. I guess the second game story.
I thought you were gonna ask him to play the first game. I'm like, he's not
Yeah,
about it.
play the
I would
He is
first
say
not
that.
about it.
I
Nah,
mean, I
man.
do think
I think it's
it will.
definitely necessary. I think it's definitely necessary to play the first game. I think it does this game a disservice not to play the first game now after playing the second game.
Don't make the same mistake though. Don't set yourself homework. I'm going to suggest this because I
True.
think you'll enjoy Innocence more than Requiem. You will.
Really? I don't think you will, but hopefully.
I think if you watch
Well-
the story on like a Let's Play or like a YouTube walkthrough, that's a way more enjoyable experience.
But here's
if
the
I
thing.
do, I have to give it some time. Oh, I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Here's the thing that you're all disregarding with the comments like, "Hey, if this was a, if Telltale jumped on this thing, it would have been much better." I think there's a lot with the movement and the character experience and the ability to control Amicia and enduring those scenes and that combat that is contributing to more than we expect with how we emotionally attach ourselves to the game.
Yeah.
And I came in expecting to be spicy with this game. What I didn't know is that it would be spice all around. So I feel like I kind of have to pull it back a bit. But like, I think this is Game Awards worthy. I think it does get up there to become Game of the Year as a contender, if only because there hasn't been many games out this year that have been up there. Like, that's a reason to put it there. The other reason is that games as a game, okay, it's all right to step away from the game and think, that is a bit that doesn't delight me. And Finus, if you weren't doing this spoiler cast, you probably would have just ejected it and jumped back onto Sonic Frontiers or whatever else you're trying to play.
Yeah, probably.
A real game.
But see, there are people who walk away from films and they say, that was a massive waste of my time. I got nothing out of that. I didn't enjoy that film. And there are some people who walk away and they go, oh my God, I've been abusing my son this whole time. You know, there can be big revelations that you get from shared experiences like that. I think this game, in the medium that it's in, despite plagiarizing Santa Monica Studios and Naughty Dog and all of these other big PlayStation titles, I think what they've built as an experience for us to learn from and connect with sometimes, I think it has to exist in the state that it's in. I think it has to exist as this game. But get a different combat team, maybe for the next one. See what Last of Us 3 does. And yeah, I don't know. Hey, Finest, don't take that with you. You got a different podcast.
He's about to steal our logo. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's definitely, like, for every game, there's a lot of ups and downs and pluses and minuses and things of that nature. And for everything that this game does, I think it's a game worthy of playing. Just to experience the story, if not anything else. So I wouldn't discredit it by that means. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, in regards to it just being nominated for Game of the Year, like, I'm curious to see how that pans out. I mean, because what was it last year? It was Take Two. Was it Take Two that won last year?
It Takes Two.
Yeah, that was an abomination.
Hey, it deserves it. Calm down.
So
it's a fun game. It's a fun game.
Yeah, it's just interesting what people are pulling away from these games, and everyone, as we've all seen, is very different in what they're pulling away. And I mean, for me, like, I'm sure this speaks a lot to me. For me, it was just the mental state that it takes, that everyone really like took on this journey. Arno had his mental toll. Beatrice had hers. Hugo had his, and just seeing how just this experience, this journey affected everyone. Was a worthy journey that I will finish. At least I will say that much. I'm going to continue to play the game so I can finish it. Even though I don't know what were you guys' general impressions of the end? Were they every pretty positive for all of you?
As far as the story goes,
Yeah, like how it wrapped up.
I thought it wrapped up very well. I've definitely seen way worse endings. Like I think it wrapped up in a way that made sense. I think it wrapped up in a way where you get closure to pretty much every single main character we've been following who's still alive.
I think you need it. I think you need it.
Yeah.
If you've been playing as far as you have, you do.
Yeah, I would definitely. I'm positive on the ending.
Yeah, for me, I thought the ending was perfect. Right from the wind up to literally it cutting off credits as soon as with the sound of your sling just going off. I thought that was a very excellent choice made. And I think if you choose for Lucas to do it, it cuts off with Amicia screaming like no. Either way,
Right.
I thought the ending was perfect. Either way you cut it with that alternative ending.
Honestly, I wish they didn't have the cutscene.
I was
honestly
gonna say,
wish they just
yes.
ended like that.
Me too.
Honestly, that
I
would have
think
been a
the
great
epilogue
statement
ruins
to
it.
me.
I thought they would.
It would have been a much, much more powerful ending if they didn't have the epilogue. I completely agree.
But at the same time, I would have been way more unhappy without any kind of anything else. At the same time, I was like, the artist, the auteur in me is saying, yeah, that's how I'd end this game. But without anything else, I would have been disappointed, I think. Anyway, sorry, you were saying stuff.
That's fair.
Like it kind of was like, and like this is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's kind of like Infinity War, where it's like nobody expected that to end that way,
Right?
And it's like, if it had just ended with that scene and it goes fade to black, I would. While it wouldn't, I don't think change the score of the game, I'd be way higher on like this is an artistic statement of a story that I think everybody should experience, and I still feel that way. But I do think that end credits kind of like, okay, we're gonna put a little bit of hope in here,
Right?
And it's like I don't think you really needed it because this whole game has kind of been this like, I'm sorry to say it again, but toxicity the entire time. It's been like very negative. And I get that sometimes like, oh, we got to put some positive here. But I'm like, no, I think it is positive for Hugo to die in some people's eyes. Like in some, like, yes, for our main character, Amicia, this is a horrible thing, but it's a thing that had to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So it ending like that, I think would have been almost like the Last of Us ending with Joel, where it's like the way that ends is like, wow. Like, we're just going to end there, like, with this lie, like, we're going to end this game with Amicia making that decision or Lucas making that decision. Like, I feel like that would have been a little more powerful, but that's just me.
Agreed.
Speaking of positive, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I was just going to say, with the epilogue, I had a feeling that it was coming because they did that in their first game. They were like, oh, let's give a little bit of hope, a little intro to like a sequel, what a sequel will look like. But yeah, agreed.
What about positivity?
Oh, I was gonna ask, I'm just curious what's everyone's favorite part of the game? Like, was there a chapter or was there a scene or something a character does?
That's a good question. I would probably say my favorite scene is when we first meet Sophia. Like, I love that because that kind of opened up the world a little bit where I'm like, oh, they're pirates. They're like kind of not, I don't know if she's a pirate. They never call her a pirate, but
she's a pirate.
She's a pirate.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, okay. Like, it kind of like that aspect of world building was something I wasn't expecting. And I was like, all right, and she's going to take us. So these two are now officially on our journey. They're the new I forgot the name of the
girl.
Yeah,
me too.
Melanie?
I don't think Melanie in the 18th century. I don't think
for what?
14th century, but
whatever. The two
there's two characters who are brother and sisters who were kind of your companions.
Yeah.
And I thought they were cool. But
They were.
I like Sophia and Armin.
Yeah, it was a different feel
know.
because
Yeah,
this is the
I like
first
them a
time.
lot too.
This is the first time they're around adults though too, that are like her
Yeah.
friends instead of just kids, right?
And also the fact that even before that, we were just fighting this guy.
Yeah.
And this guy looked like Freddy, or was it, I forgot, like from Friday the 13th, that game where we're just running, like we're trying to avoid this dude, and he's just popping up out of nowhere. Like it was like, I love that part of the game. And then where he's like telling you, she's like, why are you joining us? And he brings you a real realistic answer, like, yeah, I'm trying to leave this army, and I know they're gonna try to kill me, so I'm gonna hang with you and the rat boy. I'm like, respect. That's a great reason to join. Like from there up until we get to Lacuna, I love. Then after that, it's still good, but it's, you know, a different section of the game. That's me.
For me, it's the ending. I this ending broke me kind of. I thought a lot about the ending after the game ended, and then I was like, damn it, they're giving me an epilogue. I don't want that. But yeah, the actual ending, not even the epilogue. I thought a lot about like what was the point of the journey? Why like we went through so much and got so little in return, and it was just really interesting. It leads me back to like The Last of Us, for example, when, you know, they end with that hard cut of this is the decision they made. And I don't know, I feel like it's just a really powerful statement in and of itself, in it, the ending provoking so much thought as to the journey that you went on, and just, you know, the meaning of it all, basically. So I love the ending.
Good choice.
I enjoyed the open world bit in Lacuna where you're hanging out with Sophia, just running around, banter. I think that was probably the best bit. The bit where you can run on your own clock and kind of just get what you want to.
I wish there was more of that, for sure. That was definitely a great part of the game.
Funnily enough, that's a wish I had for Uncharted too. There's some open bits in that.
You get that a little in Lost Legacy. You might want to play that. Did you play that? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, The Lost Legacy is definitely, it has a little more, but I like a whole game of that. Like
that was a whole game. That was like 20 hours, wasn't it?
Well, no. In terms of, because the whole game is
worldness
not like open world.
Yeah.
Like there's only certain parts of that game that are open world. I wish Naughty Dog would just make an open world game.
They'll get there one day. What about you, Finus?
Factions.
Finus. There I go, Ken.
It hurts. It hurts so good.
I was doing good.
What do you keep calling him, Finnis?
Yeah, it's logging to my brain.
That
Anyway,
is
go.
Billie. That's Billie Eilish's brother. That's
Just call
Finnis.
me. Just call me. Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, there you go.
Just call me Justin, and make it easy for you. No, I had a couple different parts, and it was just because like I think the words behind the action like were like so subtle, but like those were like my favorite moments in the games. Like the of course the when Amicia first goes insane and she's like destroying guys with the sling that are just keep on coming after her, and then she's just like saying like, just come at me, like fuck it, I don't care, come at me, like everyone. And she's just like just seeing that breaking point, and kind of just seeing her almost so angry at the world and like what's going on with her brother, but at the same respect like just like so willing to die at that point also was really impactful for me. Another moment was when you first control the rats, and Amicia is like, I can't anymore because, you know, she's hurt after Arno tried to take her out. But at that point when like she's like, you have to do it, Hugo, and Hugo's like are you sure? Like was I don't know, that out of that moment captured me, where you're just seeing, you know, through the rat's eyes, and you're just like climbing up the nets and you're taking down guys one by one, and Hugo's like, I'm doing it. Like he's like almost excited, and it's kind of scary.
He sounds like
excited.
Amicia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he does.
you know, was was pretty crazy. And then I guess the last one I would say was when Beatrice died, and then Hugo just loses it also, and
superpowers.
Yeah, and they're just kind of like they're just like pounding the ground as they're just taking out one after one at I don't know, maybe I needed just more of that like in the game, like that. I mean, because like those are all the parts I enjoy. Obviously, like I'm kind of like looking at now in retrospect, like in hindsight, I'm just like, oh wait, I enjoyed all the parts where we killed hundreds and hundreds of people.
I'll tell you what, if you want your taste of that, go back and play Prototype and Prototype 2. They are very enjoyable games. Not quite the same.
We talked about Prototype before, yeah.
We did?
As long as you can murder a bunch of people.
Yep.
I think that's what he's
never
looking
played
for.
that. I always wanted to.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay.
Not to murder a bunch of people, but yeah.
Those are
fucking murder a bunch
sure,
of people.
Yeah. No, but just like when they were talking during those moments, and they were really just like bringing to light like the way they feel and the frustrations that they have with the world, and everything that's happening to them. Those moments hit me hard.
Also,
Emotional.
and just an honorable mention for me, like any moment where Amicia and Hugo are just talking and they're trying to not like think about all the craziness going on, and they're just talking like brother and sister. I live for those moments. They have some of the best chemistry I've seen, like a main character and their NPC. Like it's up there for me. Where every time they have an interaction, I'm all in on it, and it's all real sappy shit too. Like I don't really get into it with the sappy shit, but when it comes to Hugo and her, like the way they sell that relationship, it feels so real. And I mean, that's from the first game as well. I feel like the first game had a lot more moments like that. Like there's so many like that would carry that game for me because I hated the gameplay as that one as well. I'm like, damn it, I fucking love Hugo.
Damn, I actually like this kid.
But that's the rubber banding. That's the bungeeing you do back and forth, right? Like at the very beginning of the game, they set that up as a component of this. That's how they rocket you emotionally around the story. Like, oh my god, look at this sick market. Having a good time with Hugo. He wants candy. I'm like, no, you can't have it. He's like, you can hit all the targets. That's going to be great. And then, an hour later, you're running away from waves of rats, Crash Bandicoot style, trying to escape a town.
Yeah.
Like,
how many times did you have to do that?
In the first, a lot of times.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tsunami of rats in this
Gotta
game.
say, love me a chase sequence though. So I was in it. I loved it.
Front-on chase sequence. I've literally been sitting on Crash Bandicoot reference this entire time. Like I reckon they hit the Sony catalog and just went, what's the biggest titles that we can get from here and grab some stuff from?
Honestly, part of me wishes that Sony would be like, Asobo, we got it from here. And just take this IP and give it to Naughty Dog. Like
no,
I think they have to at this point.
Wait, Alfredo, you're telling me you wouldn't play a third game if it was made by Naughty Dog?
Look, I'm just saying, like, I think the writing team is one of the best.
Bring the writing, you can bring the writing team with you. I don't care. Like I'm saying, have Naughty Dog develop the levels.
Here is how you do it. So we've got our post second credits epilogue scene. It's the kid with the little bit with the arm. Mm-hmm. It pans down to the wrist bracelet.
Oh no!
And it says Ellie whatever on it. And you're like, damn, this is Last of Us.
I thought you were going like Nathan Drake's daughter or something.
No, I mean
she's fine.
Don't discredit it
that we know of.
Asobo, just imagine they're like, just imagine like what their next game will be like after like from the first game to the improvements to this game to their next game. Like this game is receiving enough attention that I'm sure like with Microsoft backing, they increase their studio size. They have the money behind it, and then if they do win game of the year or whatever, like it's gonna shoot them into the stratosphere. It's gonna make them a known, like even more known studio, and then I mean, they can develop whatever they want. And I'd be curious to what they would do next. Not even another what is this game called? I wanted to call Last of Us.
This is Sonic, Sonic Frontiers. We're talking about Sonic Frontiers.
Another Plague Tale. I'd be curious to what they do next, because like you said earlier, Thomas, like they were doing like SpongeBob and Toy Story and Wall-E before.
They have the wildest gamography. I always get this one confused because filmography, bibliography, this gamography.
Discography. I just say portfolio. I don't know.
Fair enough. But they have the wildest portfolio of any studio that has a Game of the Year nominee. Like this portfolio is crazy.
Hey, well deserved.
It's honestly impressive. They would have won Game of the Year if this came out last year. I guarantee that.
Yeah.
Like they picked the wrong year to have a Game of the Year nominee. Not with Elden Ring and God of War.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, that's kind of a downturn because I feel like this will be a sleeper hit. Like the first one was definitely a cult classic, but it made enough waves that we're going to go bigger. Everyone loves this property. And this is a really good sequel to it. But I don't know if it will make as big of a splash because now we have, obviously God of War, Elden Ring. Like it kind of is getting a little bit buried, and that's my fear from it. But like you're saying, I think there's a chance for them, and they're not acquired, right? They're independent right now.
Yeah, this wasn't an Xbox published game. It's a Focus Entertainment game.
I think there's a real chance for an acquired to happen here, and it'll be interesting to see if that does happen. What does that mean for the third game?
Yeah, they're probably. I mean, I'm sure those talks are already in because this is. What's the funny thing? They made Microsoft Flight Simulator too.
Really?
It's just that there's four different developers.
On is that okay? That might be true. Yeah. I didn't realize that. They were one of them. Yeah.
Microsoft did pay them for this to be on Game Pass, and that I think this game would not be having the conversations that it's having at this day if it were not on Game Pass. I don't think it would have got as many eyes on it, as many hands on the controller, and as many people playing the story, even despite the first one being so wonderful and so just well accredited.
Yeah. And the first one was on Game Pass as well, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Not on release, but it did eventually come to Game Pass. And also
came out before Game Pass even.
Yeah. Well, no, it came out 2019. Game Pass was out
start?
Like 17?
I don't remember.
Right. I might be
been
wrong.
So long.
But Microsoft Studios has developed published 8 of their games. So they have a working relationship with Microsoft. I think accusation is definitely in the cards, or at least it's had to been talked about. I can definitely see a Plague Tale 3 being a Microsoft Xbox Game Pass exclusive. That I can see that too.
Game Pass 2017.
When do we get the Asobo mod for Flight Simulator, where you can see all of the actual macular infestations?
Or you can have a rat. You can have a rat plane.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Piloted by Hugo.
He grew up. He didn't actually die.
Where you at?
You're gonna miss saying that.
I'm not ruling out that he's like. I'm not ruling out that we might see a.
They are not doing that. Oh, he's actually alive.
If the Joker can come back in Arkham Knight, anything's possible.
I think there are better cases than that for revival. I think.
I'm saying
I don't even know what you're talking about.
If you're gonna make a Plague Tale 3, Hugo's gonna be in one of her little visions.
Or it's a totally new protagonist. Who knows?
It definitely will be. But the genetic memory thing means maybe he'll pop in.
I'm hoping they drop that last like credit scene. Like I hope that's not a thing. I don't know if I want to see a modern day Plague Tale.
Me too.
Like, that's a New York subway right now.
Yeah,
it's too soon.
I think I would be fine with a couple hundred years, but not like modern. Wait, what is?
30? It would have to be in New York then, huh?
Yeah, all the rats in the subway. Yeah,
that's true.
Another reason to play Prototype set in New York.
Well,
any final thoughts that anybody wants to get off their chest with this game? There's a lot to unpack.
Amazing game. As you guys know, I really enjoyed this game. I've said enough about it, and yeah, I love it to death.
Is it your game of the year?
I don't think it's a game of the year just because of literally only the gameplay. But it is very high up there. Maybe somewhere, definitely in top 5.
Last question for you. I thought you knew this was coming. A Plague's Tale Requiem or Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise? I need your answer right now.
How was I ready for this? You pulled that out of nowhere for a game. Oh my god!
Very similar games, we have to say.
It's gonna
Very
be
similar.
Plague's Tale. It's Plague's Tale. It is.
There's
Plague's
just
Tale.
no Limp Bizkit in Plague's Tale.
But
Right.
Stranger of Paradise high up there too.
Oh god.
I did forget about it though.
Oh god.
It's so easy to forget. There's so many
Right.
games in that nomination list that you're just like, that wasn't 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. I was like, wait,
Tunic.
that came out this year?
And I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody's played it. And I know it's off topic a little bit before we go. Can we agree that Stray shouldn't be on this list? On that list?
I
what?
disagree. Stray
Stray on the nomination list.
deserves some recognition.
Not Game of the Year.
Game
though.
of the Year?
I think it balances everything well enough, more so than the other games that could have made it on the list.
Sifu.
Yeah, that's the
I
one
would
I
put
go
it up
back to.
there,
Like
Sifu
Sifu,
should have been
like
on
got
there instead.
because Sifu didn't get really any awards, right?
Yeah, it didn't get anything.
it's just like best indie game, I think. But I'm like,
No, it's on there. It's on there a couple.
oh,
it
is
is,
there?
but-
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm just
not
saying.
on Game of the Year.
Should have been Game of
Here
the
is the argument for that. Has Dark Souls ever won a game award as Game of the Year?
Year.
I don't think the Game
No, right?
Awards were like big when Dark Souls 1 and 2 came out. And
What
so
about
I
3?
think when 3 came out, I don't know if it was nominated. I'd assume it is, but I feel like at that point it's like it's already too late.
It was dying down. The hype.
Yeah.
I
feel
think-
like at
I
that
think-
point it's a little too late.
Sifu is kind of in that realm of things, I think, where I feel like I'm not even looking at you guys. It's like I'm disregarding you completely. I'm just gonna Sifu is in that camp where people will eject off it, where we couldn't for Plague Tale because there was something driving that. There really wasn't enough story in Sifu or anything else to get you through unless you could come to grips with the combat, which people like myself or Alfredo can definitely do. Two people who love
For
hard mode.
gamers. We're
But
gamers.
yeah, for real gamers, get better. But it's not Game of the Year material for that reason, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas Stray has compelling narrative, impressive characterization for NPCs, impressive gameplay. You emotionally connect with a cat that never says anything to you, just does cat things.
I hate cats. I'm
well,
good.
get over it. It's going to win Game of the Year. So just because no one can
It's
choose
not.
between God
Probably.
of War.
Imagine the shit show. Oh my god. Oh my
Probably.
god.
It's not. It's absolutely not. It's going to be God of War.
The internet
We'll
might
see.
shut down for a day.
Yeah.
Man.
might.
Well, of course, this has been the Plague's Tale Requiem Spoilercast. I want to thank everybody for listening, watching live, or in the future. Thank you for choosing to hang with us for the next hour and some change. Leave a like, a review, a comment, anything that will support the show. You can even email us at therealdukesofgaming@gmail.com. Have your question read live on air during our podcast. Hit the bell as well to get notifications. And I also want to give a little time, Matt, both of you all, give a shout out to your...
Thomas, you just forget my name?
I put it on the screen. and
Dang,
everything.
man. I can't get any love. Oh, I see how it is.
Look, it is 12:30.
Finesse.
Forbid.
It's 12:30.
Vince, I gave you like
Phineas
10
and
names
Ferb.
earlier, man. Oh,
Finest.
I'm a stranger.
Man.
X3D
Please,
in
Savant.
paradise.
Please shout out where our folks can find you.
Matt, please. Oh, it's me first. Okay. So,
I can
as the-
say them if you want.
So you can follow me at the Game and Watch podcast. You can find us by searching Our View Gaming or the Game and Watch podcast. We're on all listening platforms. And then additionally, we do a weekly show on YouTube. Usually the same time as this show, though. So definitely watch this show and then come watch our show right after. And other than that, if you want to reach us, you can do that on at gamewatchpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show to talk games. I feel like this is long overdue. I'm always checking out what you guys are doing so I can compete. You guys keep me on my toes. So I'm so happy that you guys had me here today.
Glad to have you, man.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like you said, glad to have you. Now go away, Phineas and Ferb. What do you got to say, Matt?
I love how his logo came up too, like his advertising.
Yeah, that's perfect. Look, if you guys are sick of listening about game chat for 2 hours and would rather squeeze all the news into 10 minutes, you can listen to my podcast, The Dead Drop, 10-minute video game news, twice a week, every Monday and Thursday, Australian time anyway. On all your listening platforms, it's audio only, unfortunately. You won't see this pretty face everywhere, so come back here if you do need to see it again. And you can find us on Instagram, on Twitter. You can find me at Matt Bliss Pod. Head to deaddroppod.com if you'd like to find out more about the podcast. And thank you, lads, for having us back on for another argument. It's been great.
Glad to have both of you. This has been such a great conversation, even though we all kind of are not head over heels besides Alfredo over this game.
Yeah.
I think we had a really great conversation. Follow these guys. If you're not listening to their content, you're doing something wrong. So make sure you give them a like, a review, a comment as well. And of course, this has been another Dukes of Gaming special. Again, thank you all for joining us. Make sure you start your week right with the Dukes of Gaming. And with all that being said, I bid thee farewell.
Oh my God.